Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Chris and welcome to Cinema Savvy. And first and foremost, happy Christmas, happy holidays. And this is going to be like, we don't usually do this on the channel. This is going to be a watch along commentary. Doing this for multiple reasons. So obviously, as you can see from the title, this is going to be a watch-along commentary to the original Mary Poppins film, 1964. Doing this for multiple reasons. One is that, you know, Mary Poppins Returns is in cinemas now. I still haven't seen it. I'm seeing it later in the week. And the biggest reason is that I haven't seen this movie in over 10 years and I needed to refresh myself before going in to see Mary Poppins Returns. Also, the fact, you know, it's Christmas and a lot of channels don't usually do anything at Christmas, but nevertheless, you know, I'm not up to much tonight. I wanted to get a video out there on the channel. So hopefully, I don't know if a lot of you guys are going to be around, but like, feel free to like, you know, pop into the stream when you can. Like if you just stay for 5-10 minutes, whatever, it's all going to be great. And I'm literally just going to be watching Mary Poppins on the stream. So the movie's about 2 hours 20, something like that. I have read up about the film. I've done a little bit of research on it. It was a film I wasn't really, you know, knowledgeable about or anything like that. So I'm going to do my absolute best to provide a commentary throughout the movie. Although I guess a heads up, like there might be some parts of the movie where, because as I said, like I haven't seen this movie in 10 years. Like this will almost be like me essentially watching the film again. Like I'm trying to think when I actually saw this movie. I'm 25 now. I'm almost 26 in January. And I think I probably saw this movie when I was about 11 years old. Like, I'll talk more about it as I watch the film, sort of like my first time watching this movie. So very much I'm going to be rediscovering this movie. So there might be some parts of the commentary, you know, or the watch along where there is a little bit of dead air. But in that time, if I do get some people watching, I know people are going to be very, very busy this Christmas day. So hopefully if we get some people... Oh, we've had our first person in, Lucas McManus. Hey, man, how's it going? Thanks for jumping in. He's put, I'm very curious to see how Mary Poppins Returns is. Seems like it's going to be pretty good, and Emily Blunt is a great actress. Absolutely, man. Like, you know, I actually have heard some mixed things on Mary Poppins Returns, but I'm going to try and, like, clear my head of all those reviews and go in with an open mind. I really liked what I've seen from the trailers. In terms of the plot, it looks very similar to Christopher Robin, the movie that came out earlier this year, the live action, you know, A.A. Milne. Not sorry, it wasn't A.A. Milne, was it? Was it? No, it was Christopher Robin. No, I'm thinking of the other Christopher Robin movie that came out with Domhnall Gleeson. The live action Winnie the Pooh movie that came out earlier this year with Ewan McGregor. The plot of that was very much sort of, you know, as a childhood, he was wrapped up in all this childhood whimsy. And as he's got older, he's kind of neglecting that life and he's got into like more of a business life, an adult life. And throughout the movie, he has to essentially rediscover that part of his childhood so he can reconnect with his family so that they're not a dysfunctional family. And by the looks of it, the plot of it is going to be more or less exactly the same in Mary Poppins Returns. But I'm with you there, man. Like, Emily Blunt is a fantastic actress. Like, pretty much all of her recent roles since at least Edge of Tomorrow for me, she's absolutely knocked out of the park. So I can't wait to see that. But yeah, as I said, so I'm about to start the film now. As I said, it's about 2 hours 20. So it's a fairly long movie. I'm in it for the long haul here. So please feel free to drop me any questions. If you can stick all the way through the stream, that's great. If not, if you've got to like check out, that's absolutely cool as well. So I am actually watching this off a copy off the internet, as I own Mary Poppins on VHS, and that just wouldn't be doable to watch it on a VHS. So fingers crossed there's no buffering problems and it doesn't freeze or anything like that. I really hope luck is on my side tonight with this stream. So with all that being said, I feel like I'm doing my reaction video spiel now. We're going to watch it now. I'm going to do my best to give timestamps throughout the film as well. So if you are watching at home, you can sync it up with me. And I'm going to hit play now. And we're straight into the Buena Vista Distribution Co. Inc. I'm also obviously got my earphones in for this, but I know that sometimes it picks up on the audio. So if that's a problem, please do let me know in the comments as we go through. But here we go. Kicking off with this score. And I was reading about it as well. I mean, the score to this film and the music are absolutely timeless. So I'm looking forward to rediscovering this movie with the music. So Lucas has put, the reviews are mostly good for Mary Poppins Returns, but there have been some mixed stuff from what I've seen too. I think that's like any movie, right? So the only way you're going to know is if you actually go and see the movie itself. which I plan to do later in the week. I still need to see Bumblebee and Mary Poppins, so I'm hopefully going to pick a day this week and, just knock both of them out, essentially. You know what I like? So this movie came out in 1964. If you're gonna put this in between the Disney animated classics, it came out in between Sword in the Stone, which I believe came out the year before, and The Jungle Book. The Jungle Book being the last movie that Disney himself presided over. And I just miss these opening credits to Disney films. They all start off with these very musical style opening credits, as a lot of old films do. And you get the music playing at the beginning. It just, I don't know, it feels like no movies do this now. It's very much of their time. But I love that. Also, feel free to sing along at home if you know any of the songs. Should say as well, I've got some water. It's a long movie, so 2 pints of water should hopefully cover it. So what some people might not know is this is actually based on a series of books. I've never read the books. Apparently this movie is based on I don't know if it's loosely based on it or based predominantly on the first entry of the book. And I know that the author of the book had a very turbulent relationship with Walt Disney himself, which I'll talk more about as the film goes on. And this is going to be the thing with me. I love Emily Blunt, but Julie Andrews is Mary Poppins, I mean, this was her feature film debut. Before this, she was a stage actress, and she lost out on the role of, I think it was Eliza Doolittle to Audrey Hepburn for My Fair Lady. And she got asked to do this. She even won, I believe she won the Oscar for this movie, Best Actress. Yeah, she won Best Actress, which is pretty good for a debut film role. So here we go. The film's just beginning now after the opening credits. Oh, Dick Van Dyke. God damn it. I should have put that whole one-man band thing, that contraption he's got now on my Christmas list, because that thing's awesome. Here we go. Here's the accent. I mean, this is on a lot of people's lists for worst accents in a movie. And as, someone who is a British, it is pretty bad. But it's all part of the charm, it is what it is. It's fine. And on a wild tangent as well, it's quite interesting if not every American person I've spoken to, but if you ask an American, and this is the same in terms of anyone, I guess, stereotypical accents. If you ask an American person, do an English accent, how do you think English people sound or talk like? They will always do a Cockney accent, always. And they'll pretty much do it exactly like Dick Van Dyke, which is pretty funny. Hopefully I don't sound like Dick Van Dyke. I don't think I do. I don't even know what my accent sounds like. A lot of people say I don't have an accent, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Dick Van Dyke's I sense a great disturbance in the force. So Lucas has also put, I won't spoil it. Holy crap, Bumblebee is amazing. As a Generation 1 fan, I'm very satisfied. And even the human and Earth stuff is great. I agree the music for Mary Poppins is great. Yeah, I mean, we don't just have to talk about Mary Poppins during this stream. Obviously, just shoot me any questions you want. Mate, I cannot wait to see Bumblebee. George went to see it yesterday, George off the channel. And, he called me up right after it finished. And he was basically saying, Chris, it may not be my favorite Transformers movie, but you're going to love it. And from the stuff I've seen with interviews of Travis Knight, and there's great featurette on YouTube, which I recommend everyone watch if you're a Transformers fan. where he talks about the conceptual design for the Transformers, the redesigns, and bringing it closer to Generation 1. And you can tell that he's so passionate about it, and it shows clips of like the original cartoon. Like, I cannot wait for it. Also, I'm a huge mark for like the 80s and 80s music, so the fact that it's set in 87 is going to be amazing. I can't wait for that film. JX Editor in the comments, he's put, I was surprised to find out this was a sequel and not a reboot. Well, I guess it's a sequel reboot, a C-boot. Is that a Red Letter Media reference there, man? That's pretty cool if it is. I watch Red Letter Media. Yeah, Mary Poppins Returns. I think it holds the record for the largest amount of time between an original movie and a sequel. It's like, you know, I don't do maths, it's like 50 years or something like that. It's pretty impressive. But you know, it's classic Disney, right? It's going back to those familiar names. They know what's going to sell. And of course, they released it at December. It's the huge family film. Although I've heard it hasn't done particularly well. Like, it hasn't had probably like the biggest opening they were expecting. He's just like, Dick Van Dyke's like winking at the audience and shit, like at the camera. Is this like ye olde Deadpool? But there is kind of a charm to these older movies, you know, like the 60s stuff. And even before that, like the old musical style movies. I do like musicals, I should say. I'm very picky with them, though. And I don't usually gravitate towards films like this or, you know, say, for example, another Julie Andrews movie, The Sound of Music. They're not really my go-to go-to ones. Like, I know they're classics and absolutely they're regarded as classics, but, you know, I live in the age of like 80s. Well, in my opinion, like what I watch is like 80s movies, and obviously I go and see recent movies. But there is a charm to them. It's nice to go back to them every now and then. Lucas has put, I watched that Transformers Generation 1 video too. He's a lot more caring for the material than Michael Bay. Bayhem, absolutely, man. Like, I haven't even seen the movie, and I know that I'm going to absolutely love it as a Generation One fan, as a Transformers fan. What a difference a brand new director, a new writer on a project has, right? Like, for me, Transformers: The Last Night was the pits, and I'm really hoping that people do go and see Bumblebee and give it a chance. And I hope that the nail in the coffin for the franchise hasn't already been made with The Last Night, because I've also been told as well that they've taken out a lot of references to the Michael Bay franchise. I know there's one prominent reference with Sector 7, but I think from some stuff that we saw in the trailers, I think they've removed a lot of it. So maybe they saw the finished product and realized that this could stand on its own as a reboot, like an 80s Generation 1 reboot. I'm just seeing this. So we're in Mary Poppins now. They're doing a song now about like, you know, like suffrage and like women's votes and everything. Has anyone seen this? There was that great video. I think it got blocked, or I think the guy got his channel deleted. He was like releasing clips of Red Dead Redemption 2, and there's like a women's suffrage side mission or like interaction you can have in that game. And he like punched her or something like that, like a social justice thing. I know it pissed a lot of people off, but I don't know if anyone else has seen that video. It just reminded me of that. I can already hear as well that people are going to be pissed off that I'm not actually watching Mary Poppins. But I'm watching it. I'm watching it. See, I always think it's very interesting with like films like this, where I mean, this was released 64, and obviously Mary Poppins Returns has been released this year, 2018. Film changes, we move from, you know, regular film to digital and everything like that. Sound quality improves. But I always wonder if they wanted that truly authentic experience, could they film it in the same way that this was filmed? You know, with that like very 60s. You know what I mean by the audio, you know, you can tell when you're watching an old film, or the music sounds very old school compared to now, like with the big bombastic scores and excellent sound quality. I always wonder if it would be interesting if they did fully recapture it, so you'd have that complete visual continuity between movies. I don't know. What do you guys think to that? Do you think that would be a good idea, or do you think that would put a lot of people off with 2018 sensibilities? Because it is a very different way. Like when you watch films like this, old school films, it's much more theatrical. It almost feels like you're watching a stage show come to life. It feels very much like it's still based in the theater. Lucas writes, it's my favorite. He's referring to Bumblebee. It's my favorite Transformers film because the human stuff is actually interesting too, and you don't mind it. But yeah, The Last Night was bottom of the barrel. Only way is up from there. Absolutely, man. It's very rare now. Like I'll go and see a movie and say like that was bad, but it's very rare I'll come out of a movie knowing within my heart of hearts that that was probably one of the worst films that I've seen ever. And my time watching The Last Night was absolutely miserable. It was pushing 3 hours. It felt like I was being kept prisoner in that cinema screen, man. JX Editor puts, that just sounds awful. I'm guessing you're referring to my idea of making it look like this, like old school cinema, right? You know, like inherently, like I was deciding what to do for a Christmas video, and you know, in my heart of hearts, I probably should have done something like a Die Hard watch along, or something like that, or Nightmare Before Christmas, or any other like, or It's a Wonderful Life, for example, like a big, you know, prominent Christmas movie. But I think Mary Poppins is still keeping in the realm of, you know, festivities, and it's a family film. I think it was even on for the UK anyway. For us, this was on TV yesterday, and I missed it because I knew I wanted to do a watch along with it. But even like I'm watching this now, and you've got the character of Mr. Banks here, who is very much, you know, is money and power and everything like that. And there's a lot of comparisons you can draw to him to Ebenezer Scrooge, for example. So I'm saying it's okay as a Christmas movie for me to do for the channel. I actually haven't checked this out, but the actor who plays Mr. Banks, let me find his name. Uh, David Tomlinson. I mean, he's great in this film, and I know he gets a lot of emotional scenes towards the end of this film. He really reminds me of, if we're talking about animated Disney films, the animated Peter Pan movie. The dad of that family, is it George? I think he's called in that. I think visual appearance, he looks exactly the same to me. I don't know if anyone else is clued up on that. Lucas writes, I'm curious to see how Aquaman turns out. A lot of passionate fans that were upset by my reaction. Man, that's like a whole video I can do separately. But yeah, like the DC fans, like I'm a fan of DC. Like I love, like contrary to popular opinion, based on my reactions, I am a DC fan. Not, maybe not in terms of the recent movies, but in terms of the characters and the stories. You know, they are archetypes, and I've said that Batman is my favorite fictional character ever, not just comic book character, not just film character. In the history of fiction, Batman is my favorite character, and I find the entire mythology and psychosis of the character, and indeed his rogue gallery, absolutely fascinating. Superman as well. Like Superman is now one of my favorite characters. He was a character I always thought was boring, you know, like a Boy Scout. But no, I've come to appreciate Superman as well. Like I enjoyed some of the DC films. I enjoyed Wonder Woman. I thought Wonder Woman was a perfectly fine film. Batman Begins and The Dark Knight were great. I love Tim Burton's Batman films. Superman the movie, Superman 2, the Richard Donner films, and oh god, who was the director who John Lester, was it? Lester? I can't remember his name. I'm going to Google that right now because I feel bad that I've forgotten his name. Um, sorry, Richard Lester, not John. Richard Lester. I like DC movies, but I piss off a lot of DC fans when I say I don't like a film, even if I give positives, you know? Interesting thing about the kids here. The one who plays Jane, the little girl, is played by Karen Detrice. She is actually the sister of, and I need to try and find out the actual actress's name now. There's a British sitcom comedy series from, oh God, I think it was the 70s, maybe. I'm going to try and research this now. As you can tell, I'm so unprepared for this stream. There's a show in the UK. It's actually one of my favorite comedy series. It's very slapsticky. It's very comedic. Called Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. Apostrophe AVE. Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. And it stars Michael Crawford and oh, there we go, Michelle Detrice, who is actually the sister of the little girl from this movie right here, which I thought was an interesting bit of trivia. God, it's like family sensibilities now are so different to this. It's like, Nanny, take them up to bed at once. What? JX Editor writes, just recorded my Christmas video. Editing now, will be done before next social obligation. Absolutely, man. I should say, how is everyone's Christmases going? Like, tell me about your day. Like, you having a good day? What you've been up to? Had any nice food? What gifts have you got? But yeah, man, I'll check out your Christmas video once it's all said and done. Orban in the comments as well. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, Chris. Thank you very much. You too. So Lucas has just hit me with the bombshell that Infinity War is now on Netflix and Now TV. That's my next to watch. Man, Infinity War, like, I mean, if the DC fanboys are watching now, they are going to call me a Marvel fanboy. But Infinity War is without doubt one of my favorite films of this year, man. Like, that film absolutely blew me away. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. I've seen it about 4 or 5 times now, and I'm still waiting for that movie to get worse on multiple viewings, and it's still awesome, man. Like, I can't get enough of that film. SeaWorld Man in the comments. Good to see you, man. What did I get for Christmas? So I cheated a little bit in that I had a very early Christmas present. I had a PlayStation 4 Pro. I got that in a bundle with Red Dead Redemption 2, the opening weekend that game came out. So that was technically my Christmas present. That was my big one. And then today I've just got some various geek pajamas. I've got a lot of Star Wars pajamas. I've got some new jogging trousers for the gym because I was running very, very low. I don't know whether I should do like, you know what, I'm going to do it. Why not? We're all comfortable here. We're all friends. Star Wars pajama bottoms. Because, you know, I'm almost 26 and a hopeless geek, so geek wardrobe is my thing. Like, there's always those moments where, you know, there's like a big social gathering, or as like, as JX put it, like the social obligations, where I look at my wardrobe and think I should really, you know, start adulting now and like buying nice shirts and trousers and suit jackets. And then I get distracted and go, oh, look at that, a new Lord of the Rings shirt, a new Star Wars shirt. And then I end up buying that instead. So such is life, right? Oh, so this is one thing that I hate with movies. And I know it's like meant to be wholesome. Little kids singing, man, just, ugh. And you get people watching it going like, oh, aren't they adorable? And then I'm just there like, fuck's sake, I wish there was something stronger in this. I'm full of Christmas cheer, me, aren't I? Like, I'm straight up Ebenezer Scrooging right now. Lucas writes, Red Dead Redemption 2 is awesome. I got some Star Wars PJs and a lot of chocolates and crisps, but screw it, it's Christmas. Man, absolutely so. I mean, like a little bit of insight into like my hobbies and stuff like that. I love going to the gym. I try and work out if I can 5 to 6 days a week. I am trying to bulk up. I am trying to put on more muscle. And but man, the diet is so difficult. They always say that when it comes to weightlifting or bodybuilding or everything like that, 70% of it is what you eat, and that's absolutely right. It's difficult to get the calories in, especially with good calories. And I went into this Christmas going, you know what? I had a particularly bad year with food last year. I don't want to recreate that. I want to eat right, and I'm back to square one, guys. Like, there are 3 tubes. Well, actually, I had a tube now. This was from earlier. Here's one I prepared earlier. An empty tube of Pringles. This was hot and spicy, which I'm adding to my collection of tubes that I've already eaten ahead of Christmas. So this makes it the 4th empty tube of Pringles in my room. So, yeah, the diet's not going well, guys. So I'm going to bounce back in January like, probably a lot of other people are. But yeah, in terms of Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm still slogging my way through the game. I'm taking my time with it. I'm getting immersed in it. Also, I should regard the movie because I think Mary Poppins is actually about to appear in it. She's like, "Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks." But yeah, man, I've just started chapter 4 on the game. I know there's 6 chapters and 2 epilogues. The game is immense. The game is absolutely huge. So I want to, I don't want to rush through it. I want to take my time, do the side quests, do the fetch quests and everything like that. But I know it's not like as part of the channel. We usually just talk about movies, but I would absolutely love to do a review on that game once I'm all said and done with it. It is probably one of the best video games I've ever played. It's definitely pushing the envelope. Rockstar always tend to do that with their games. And Arthur Morgan, the character in it, is without a doubt one of my favorite video game characters. But yeah, no, I'd love to do a review on that once I'm all done with it. Auburn writes, just be you. It's only about noon here, so haven't even opened gifts yet. I got up incredibly late today. Vaguely a little bit of insight because, like when I jump on this camera, I always have to be positive and everything like that. But, I'm being myself right now. I'm feeling better. But with Christmas, man, it's just like, do we have to do this thing, this like age-old tradition? And I just wasn't feeling it this morning, guys. Like I was just in bed. I think I woke up at about 11 a.m. And I just kind of, I have my phone at the side when I go to sleep, and I just like looked at it and started messaging people Happy Christmas, as you do. I stayed in bed till like 1 p.m. I thought, what's the point in getting up? But no, I got up, had some breakfast, and then because I had a very late breakfast, it means I also in turn had a very early Christmas dinner. So, and then I've had those Pringles, and that's all I've eaten so far. I've also had my advent calendar. Actually, do you guys in the US have an advent calendar? Oh no, my streamer's frozen. I knew this would happen. I'm frozen on 23/28. So, well, it's playing again now. Oh no, it's paused. I'm going to have to find another one, guys. Apologies for this. I know that I'm not even talking about the movie. This is really bad, but let me very quickly try and find another stream. So if you're watching at home, either carry on or wait for me to find another one. Apologies for this, guys. But I was watching that in 720p, so we're going to go old school with this. We're going to watch it in 480. I remember those days. 23 something or other, wasn't it? I think I said. Right, I've got it paused on 23:12. So if you have paused it, if you can get it back to 23:12, apologies for this, guys. And I'm going to click play now. Watch it in that glorious 480p quality. Auburn writes, I'm loving the kids' comments. My sentiments exactly. Yeah, it's very rare I'll watch a movie with like a solid like kid actor in it. And there are a few, obviously, but it's whenever you get a kid singing and they're really cutesy. I think there's a scene and I love this film, by the way, but Steven Spielberg's Hook. I love that film, the Peter Pan film with Robin Williams. But there's a scene in that where there's like a kid and it's like sickly sweet singing. Ron Howard's live action The Grinch film. It just seems to be like, I think families love that. I think it's usually like, moms or little kids gravitate more towards that stuff, but I cannot stand it. JX Editor writes, Quote, I'm full of Christmas cheer. Hides bottle of Christmas cheer brand whiskey. Interesting story involving whiskey. I think it's a whiskey at least. Jack Daniels. I know some people say that it's a bourbon rather than a whiskey, but I'm going to call it a whiskey. So I went out for a night out on Friday last week, and I had a bottle. This is actually the empty bottle right here. I'm not an alcoholic, guys. I've just left it in my room. This is it's cheap off brand. Devil's Own. This is a cinnamon whiskey. I think the Jack Daniels equivalent is JD Fire. Really, really good stuff. So I had about a quarter of this left, and I took this bottle with a pretty much full bottle of regular normal brand Jack Daniels. I finished this bottle off first, and I went to move on to my next bottle. I was in my mate's car, and perhaps being somewhat lightheaded and maybe not having all my wits about me after drinking this one, I accidentally left that bottle in his car. Now I work with him, and I said, like, well, just drop the bottle to me when we're at work in a couple of days' time. And over the weekend, he actually had his car stolen with everything in there. I also left my shoes in there, and I left my bottle of Jack Daniels in there as well. So, alas, not only did the thieves make off with his car, they also now have pretty much a full bottle of Jack Daniels to use to their disposal. So, happy Christmas, thieves, I guess. Let's see what else we've got. Lucas McManus, and a few beers too for me. I'm not a beer drinker, man. I've drank beer. I had to drink beer to get this glass. This was from the German market in Birmingham. And you could just buy the glass, I think, but I didn't realize this at the time. You could put a deposit down for the glass. I think it was, and I don't know the exchange rate. I think the actual beer, and this is 2 pints of beer, German beer, was £9, and I think with the glass it probably tanked it to around like £12 or £14, something like that. But I mean, I'm not going to say no to a 2-pint glass. It makes it, you know what? It makes it easier to do streams like this when I need a lot of water in one sitting. But I've never been a beer drinker. I always really, really struggle to drink it. I didn't even drink this full 2-pint when I got it. I think I drank about, I don't even think I made it to a pint. It's something about beer, man. Beer and cider, I'm not a huge... I tend to just be like a spirits drinker. I'll drink whiskeys or vodkas, occasional rum. But the two drinks that kind of like hit me the hardest are rum and tequila. I love tequila. Tequila doesn't love me. And I tend to do, like mix my drinks when I go out. I'll have some whiskey. I'll have some vodka. Someone will give me a shot of Sambuca. Someone will give me a shot of tequila. And just... And the rest is history. I'm not a cheap date, though. I don't get drunk very, very easily. I tend to put them away, and then after about, 5 or 6, that's when it starts to hit. And also, Mary Poppins is playing in the background, guys. This is like one of the most wholesome family movies there is out there, and I'm talking about alcohol. It's great, right? And hating kids. No, I don't hate kids. I hate you know what I'm talking about in these like family films where they try and be overly cutesy. Like that shit doesn't fly with me. Let's see what else we've got here. Auburn's talking about the dieting again. She says, yes, the struggle is real. I exercised this morning and then ate a cinnamon roll. Well, it's carbs. Just, I don't know, just like... That's what I keep telling myself. Like I had a Domino's pizza yesterday at work because I just really, really wanted Domino's. There isn't a single moment of my waking life where I don't want a Domino's. But yeah, so I had that, and like, what did I have on it? I had chicken breast, I had Mexican chicken, I had tandoori chicken, I had a lot of chicken on there. I had red and green peppers. I had a thin base as well, and I had low-fat cheese. So in my opinion, if you're going to have a pizza, that was a pretty healthy option. I was getting my protein in. I was getting my carbs. I wasn't going overboard with the carbs because I had a thin crisp base and low-fat cheese. So clearly I could have one of those every day, right? But no, I used to, in terms of food, like, I mean, we're talking about everything here, may as well. And it's, it's a chance for you guys to get to know me a little bit better if you're inclined and you want to. I used to be a big guy. I'm going to try and, because I know that we've got a lot of US viewers here, and you don't do... weight in stones, you do it in pounds. I'm going to try and find out about how much I used to weigh. So I think it was between 2011 and I think I'd lost it by 2012. I used to weigh 20 stone, which works out to around 280 pounds. I was almost in that 300-pound threshold. And within that year, I managed to lose, you know, get down to even thinner than I am now. Like I went completely sucked up, like, you know, which was too much. And then I've bulked up since then, got more into weight training and everything like that. I like to think I have somewhat more of a healthy relationship with food. But that beast is still in there, you know, like I used to have a pizza every single day. I used to have like 9 bags of crisps or potato chips for US viewers. And I know that I could still do that. Case in point, the 4 empty tubes of Pringles that are like at my feet right now. It's like, look at my works and despair. That's pretty much how I feel right now with those Pringles tubes down there. But it's just, you know, it's everything in moderation. Like you can have foods that you like, just be, you know, have a cheat day. Say like, if you're serious about training, don't have a cheat day at all. When I was losing weight, I didn't have a cheat day at all, or a cheat meal for over a year. But when you're like, you know, maintaining weight or you're trying to bulk, just you've got to have a cheat day to stay sane. Have like a cheat day once every 2 weeks or once every month. It depends how, you know, into your training you are. But yeah, that was a bit of a tangent there. Panda Bear has a comment. Speaking of Star Wars, do you miss having a Star Wars movie for Christmas? I wonder if Solo would have done better now. Oh boy, we're getting on to Star Wars then. So I could do an entire video on this topic. I actually went back, and I don't tend to do this a lot. I like go back and watch my old reaction videos. But I went back and watched my old original reaction video. It may have actually been the first reaction video I did on the channel for Star Wars The Force Awakens with my friend Salvatore. And just seeing how hyped I was for that movie. Now, you know, I've made no bones about that I hated The Force Awakens. I actually really kind of liked Rogue One. I went to see it multiple times. I think I saw it like 6 times at the cinema, and that to me is still the best post-Disney acquisition of Star Wars movie that we've had. So I do really like Rogue One. Since then, on multiple viewings, I've seen more problems with it, but inherently I still do very much like that movie. The Last Jedi I couldn't stand again. Solo I didn't like. And it's at the point now where I'm not hyped for episode 9. Like, you know, it's the end of the trilogy, but I don't care about any of these characters. I don't care about the story. And they've screwed the pooch, essentially, for me. Like a lot of people do actually like The Force Awakens and are a bit more lenient on it. And a lot of people draw criticism almost entirely to The Last Jedi for screwing up the franchise and the trilogy. And I guess I can understand that. But to me, the damage was already done with The Force Awakens. And then it was just further done with The Last Jedi. I just don't care about Star Wars anymore. So I guess it is a shake, because you're talking about more about like the release dates of Star Wars. I guess it is a shake up this year, not having one. We've got one of the main songs now in Mary Poppins, Spoonful of Sugar. I promise I'll start talking more about Mary Poppins in a minute, guys. But this is nice, just having a Q&A. But even if Solo was being released this Christmas, like, would it do better? Maybe. I think it would have been, because, you know, a lot of people were criticized The Last Jedi and were very harsh on that movie. And I think maybe having like a year in between those 2 films would probably have let the dust settle a little bit after The Last Jedi. But I don't know, like, personally for me, I don't know if you guys would have been the same. I still wouldn't have been excited for Solo, regardless of whether it was released back in May when it was, or December this year, because it was an unnecessary movie to me. And like, he's not my Han Solo. So maybe it would have done better. But I mean, look at all the other movies that have come out this December. We've had Aquaman, Mary Poppins, Bumblebee, Wreck-It Ralph 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like, we've had more movies than that, but there are 5 huge movies competing for the December top spot. So a Star Wars movie in the mix, along with Disney as well, having Mary Poppins. I think Mary Poppins is without a doubt like the best pick to have for a December movie, because it is that family movie time. But yeah. Oh, actually, speaking of Star Wars, there's an awesome fan film trending at the moment. It's a Darth Vader series. It's called Episode 1. I think it's called Shards of the Dark Side. I can't remember what it is. I beg everyone to go and watch that on YouTube. It's like a 15-minute short film. And, you know, it's done on like a fan budget. He may have got some like donations and everything for it, but the visual effects in it are incredible. The costumes. And I'll be honest, like that 15 minutes of a fan Darth Vader film was better than anything that's come out of Disney for at least The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi or Solo. So if you're a Star Wars fan and you haven't seen that yet, go and check that out. JX Editor writes, Jack Daniels is a whiskey with an E. Yeah, man, it's like that whole English versus US spelling, right? We drop the E, we just have it spelt WHISKY. I actually didn't know that. Like I think I was just very interchangeable with it. Like in terms of my speech as well, like I do interchange UK ways of saying things with US. Like, for example, there's like schedule and schedule. I think UK people are meant to say schedule. Schedule makes sense to me. In fact, a lot for like US viewers, like the way that you pronounce things makes sense. You say them as they're spelled. I don't know what the hell we do with words. Apart from aluminum, where you just like completely drop a letter out of it, which I don't understand why. But yeah. Jax Editor writes, alcohol is awesome and very festive. Everything is good on pizza. Just finished the video uploading now. Everything is good on pizza? I don't know. I beg to differ with that. Like, there are some things I definitely wouldn't want on a pizza. Pineapple, for one. And I think I'm probably going to start World War III in the comments section right now. Do you guys like pineapple on pizza? I know there's like a big, like, big divide, rift between people that do and don't. I can't stand it. I'm not a big vegetables guy either. Like, I'll have red and green peppers on a pizza, but I won't have like onion or sweet corn on it or anything like that. I'm not a big vegetables guy. So if you are watching this and looking to lose weight, you don't need to eat vegetables or salad to lose weight, because I didn't eat a single salad or vegetable when I lost all my weight. So there's my advice. But you probably should, because there's a lot of nutrients in it. I probably shaved off like 20 years of my life for not getting key nutrients that I need from vegetables or fruit. I do eat some fruit. But yeah, man, JX, like as soon as I'm done on this stream, like I'll check out your video, man, and I'll leave you a comment. And also I'm watching Mary Poppins now, by the way, guys. The thing is with this movie, like I am going to get to everyone's questions after this, but I'm going to fleetingly return it to the movie that I'm meant to be talking about. Like, although it's been 10 years, like I still, it's so much in the collective consciousness, this movie, like the songs and the story and everything like that. And we've seen the story be repeated in things as well, like Nanny McPhee and, kind of like Mrs. Doubtfire a little bit as well, where you've got this nanny who kind of gets the family back together essentially by the end of the movie. But I do love the aesthetic of this movie. It's very set based. Like, I know it's meant to be set in London, but I think they filmed this in Burbank, California, and they had a lot of painted backdrops. Remember those matte paintings, painted backdrops? Yeah, I miss those days as well. But I mean, the film does look great, like the costumes and everything like that. Oh, Dick Van Dyke. I will say, I think it's great how Dick Van Dyke has come back for the new one. That's just really nice to me. I don't know how I feel about them recasting Mary Poppins. I guess it makes sense, and perhaps Julie Andrews in the movie now, wouldn't work, perhaps. But it's a shame they couldn't get her involved in the movie somehow. Although I think, actually, didn't she have some throat surgery years and years ago, and that's kind of messed up her singing a little bit? Maybe she could have been dubbed. I don't know. Because, I mean, there have been, as I said, like Nanny McPhee, where you do have, like, like the older nanny characters. So, I don't know, maybe they could have done that, but... And the director of this film, actually, I was reading about it, Robert Stevenson, he's actually did 19 Disney films. He did the first 2 Herbie movies. He did Bedknobs and Broomsticks. But it was weird with these live-action Disney films for me. As I said, like I think I watched this when I was about 11 or 13, somewhere probably around that age. And I do feel like even at the time, this movie didn't connect with me as much. I remember the first time I saw it, I went over my uncle's house. And my uncle's a big film fan. He's, Used to visit my uncle every single weekend, pretty much. He's got like every video game console you can think of. He's got like an Atari, he's got a Sega Mega Drive, PlayStation 1. He's pretty much got them all. And I used to play those video games, and he's had an entire, even still to this day, his room is wall to wall. You know that moment from Disney's Beauty and the Beast where the Beast leads Belle into the library and like says, "Open your eyes," and she like gazes in wonder at all the books. It's like that, but with VHS cassette tapes. His walls are adorned with them in like huge shelves. He's got videos stacked on top of shelves. Like, if you try and take one out, it's almost like you need a step ladder to get to the top videos. It's amazing. And I think he said, like, we're going to watch a film. We're going to watch Mary Poppins, me, my uncle, and my auntie. I was like, I've never watched it. And he was like, right, you're sitting down and you're watching this movie. And I realize in hindsight, this is going to be very ironic. He has this very annoying habit of talking all the way through a movie or saying the lines of the characters. And here's me talking all the way over 2 hours 20 of Mary Poppins. It's funny how things work out. But even then, like, I was just naturally, and this is where I differ from George on the channel, where I have always been more of an animation guy, and especially because I was born 93, and I've said this countless times on my reaction videos for Disney films. My favorite Disney films are the animated classics. I had a lot of them on VHS as a kid. In fact, I pretty much almost had all of the entire Disney collection until they switched to DVD. But my favorites were Aladdin, Lion King, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Beauty and the Beast, Hercules, Tarzan. Basically the Disney Renaissance, and like Mulan, for example. And even McDonald's used to do the Disney toys as well, which as a kid, when you also see the movie and love it and also have that, McDonald's used to do awesome Disney toys, man. Like, I don't know what the hell's happened to Happy Meals now. I don't know if the properties just aren't there to have great action figures to make. Or even if they still make them, I don't know. Like, I go to McDonald's very often. I don't know if you guys had that in the US as well, where you had the little figures you could get with a Happy Meal. So I was always more of an animation guy, whereas George on the channel always gravitated more towards live action. It's just, you know, it's just different strokes for different folks, right? But I was always very conscious of it as a kid. And, you know, like, I was a 90s kid. I used to watch animation, but I also did have very much an 80s movie upbringing as well. And that's probably why although I'm 25, it's very difficult for me to find like-minded people my age to have conversations with about the films that I like, because I don't think people did have an 80s upbringing, you know, or watched 80s movies. Like, I was watching stuff way, way above my age that I shouldn't have been watching, but my parents were fairly relaxed with stuff that I watched, or even if they weren't, I used to just go next door. Like, my next door neighbor's got an older brother who had a lot of horror movies and like older films. I used to just watch them while I was over there. So, yeah, it was weird. Like, even like Bedknobs and Broomsticks, like, I don't even think I've ever watched that movie beginning to end. Or So Dear to My Heart, which is the Black Sheep animated film, isn't it? I think. Or Pete's Dragon. You know what I mean? Like, I understand why they're classics. I understand that completely. And now we're into the animated section here. And like, if I think of Mary Poppins, other than the image of her obviously in the clouds with the umbrella, this is the stuff I think. And like, a lot of people talk about Who Framed Roger Rabbit as that combination of animation and live action. And maybe that pushed the envelope a lot more, in that it was constantly throughout the movie. And it was almost like a noir film, essentially, with animated cartoon characters in it. But it's just nice to see this, you know. I miss 2D. Words cannot express how much I miss 2D animation, guys, with Disney. Or just in general, like animated movies. I absolutely think that it's almost a forgotten dead art form now. And that's why when I did my trailer reaction to Mary Poppins Returns, like, genuinely, like, I managed to hold it back. Like, I was so overwhelmed by seeing 2D animation again on the screen that I did get choked up a little bit. It's a big part of my childhood, you know, and I think that, I know there's artistry goes into it with computer animated films. Like, I'm not saying that. You've got animators that are working countless hours to get it looking as good as it does. But every company does it now. There's not really like any special quality that you can differentiate between animation. And I get that hand-drawn animation takes longer to do. It's more expensive. And with a CG animated film, you can crank them out pretty quickly now. And, you know, the fact that, sadly, hand-drawn animation films did kind of die a death. Princess and the Frog came out, that had awful advertising. I love that film. That was like the last proper 2D hand-drawn film. I know for you guys in the US, you had a Winnie the Pooh film as well in 2011. But it's sad, man. So like that's one thing that I'm looking forward to seeing with Mary Poppins Returns. Sorry, is to see the hand drawn animation in it again. Even if it's probably just going to be for like a short song, like a 5-minute section or something like that. I don't see it being as integrated into the movie as this one was. And especially this style of Disney animation as well. Like if you look at the 90s animation, it was a lot more polished. I think that's, in terms of an animation standpoint, that is the best that Disney has ever looked. But there's something charming about this era of Disney, which was more the pencil sketch outlines. Like you could almost see like every single pencil stroke of the animation. But yeah, I'm going to come back to the comments now. So there you go. I have talked about Mary Poppins, albeit not very much. Auburn writes, I feel as you do about Star Wars, which is why, again, in my opinion, the original trilogy are the only true Star Wars films. It's the story that needed to be told. The rest is just peripheral. I agree with you there. Like the original Star Wars trilogy is very much a self-contained trilogy, and you watch, you know, A New Hope or anything like that, or any of the backstory that's kind of referred to in it with Obi-Wan. And there's a lot of discrepancies with the prequels when you do try and connect it to the originals. There's a lot of things that don't make sense, and your own fan fiction idea of what that backstory was to A New Hope is probably better than what the prequels were. With the prequels, though, and I have mentioned this, and I think we even did a video on the channel called Defending the Prequels. It was one of our Star Wars months. I grew up with the prequels, like, for better or worse. That was my era of Star Wars. The first ever Star Wars movie I ever watched was The Phantom Menace in 1999. I was 6 years old. And it blew my mind. Like, that got me into Star Wars. And then after that, like, my dad was very good like this as well. Like, he did buy me a lot of toys. Like, I was a fairly spoiled kid in hindsight. But I was never allowed to play with any of my toys. They're all still... I actually got them out of the attic, like, the last week. Like, they're all still in boxes and everything like that, completely unopened. So maybe they'll be worth a little bit of cheddar now, maybe, but I'm not going to sell them. I'm always very attached to the stuff as I had as a kid. But I did have a lot of original trilogy toys and everything like that. And then I did have I think it was the 97 special edition VHS cassette tapes. It wasn't till much later, I think it was 2013, when I actually sat down and watched the unaltered original VHS cassette tapes of Star Wars. Yeah, so then I watched the original trilogy, and then even as a kid, I was conscious of this. I did tend to watch the original trilogy more so than Phantom Menace. And then Attack of the Clones came out, and even as a kid, I remember going to see it, but I only saw it the once. I had it on video. But like Revenge of the Sith, I enjoyed. Like I can watch Revenge of the Sith, although it still has a lot of problems. But as a kid, I was conscious of the fact that with Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, I would pop that VHS cassette tape in, and I would fast forward to Duel of the Fates or the Pod Race, and then call it a day and turn it off. With Attack of the Clones, I would fast forward to the Colosseum battle on Geonosis, and then pretty much turn it off. Like I did very much cherry pick the scenes that I watched. Whereas the original trilogy films, I would watch beginning to end, the number one of which would be Return of the Jedi, which is still my favorite Star Wars movie. Objectively, Empire Strikes Back is the best one, but the one that I go back to, sort of like the beginning, middle, and end that you can watch without anything being connected to it, is Return of the Jedi for me. And also just because the ending is so, you know, emotionally satisfying to it. But it's sad, and I guess I should have known that this was going to come with Disney acquiring the rights to Star Wars. I remember when I did my reaction video to The Force Awakens, I was saying that, you know, go ahead, Disney, like bring out like 3 or 4 Star Wars movies every year. I don't care. Like, just give me Star Wars. I want more. And I think everyone went in with, you know, that ideology and wanting to see that, and almost being as spoilt with Star Wars as we are with Marvel. But even with one Star Wars movie every year, for me, the fatigue set in 3 years in. And by 2018, they've pretty much killed their cash cow, you know? So maybe George Lucas had the right idea selling it on. Maybe he realized that the series was essentially creatively bankrupt at that point. But I don't know. I'll go and see episode 9 out of obligation, and also obviously because the fact that I have this channel and I do movie reviews. But I'm not looking forward to it, guys. Like the fact of like doing a midnight screening, or God forbid, like a fucking triple screening of Force Awakens followed by The Last Jedi, followed by Episode 9. Like, no, I'm not doing it. I can't do it again. As I spill water all down myself. Let's see what else we've got. Lucas says pineapple on pizza is disgusting. Absolutely, man. Oh, interesting question. Lucas writes, which film do you hate more, The Last Jedi or The Last Jedi? I read the first part of that question and thought he was going to say Force Awakens. It's really difficult, man. Like, seriously, like, if I am going to say, comparing it to, you know, like Force Awakens or The Last Jedi, which one do I hate more? It's so difficult because they're bad in different ways to me. The Force Awakens is bad in that it's completely uninspired, unoriginal. That was their chance to really push the trilogy in a new direction, do something new, but they segued back so much to the original stuff, way too much fan service, and it's essentially a soft reboot of A New Hope. Then with The Last Jedi, you go into the pretense of it that, you know, okay, like they sort of like reset it with The Force Awakens. Maybe they got some people on board with it who were old school fans and knew that it was kind of in safe hands. And this was their chance to advance the characters and to give the fans the stuff that we want to see, like, you know, Leia and Luke Skywalker being awesome and everything like that. And it just didn't. Everything that was set up with The Force Awakens was just completely diminished in the second one, to the point where I've said that it's like a 2.5-hour movie of treading water. Nothing happens in that movie. The entire equilibrium is pretty much set to exactly the same as it was in The Force Awakens. The story hasn't evolved at all. You had a lot of annoying side characters. The film was way too long. And, you know, it just, like, I get like the argument of subverting expectations, and it's great to do that in movies, but there's some things where you just need to like let the story play out. If you just keep going like, oh, I subverted your expectation there, that was crazy, that was completely different, you didn't expect that, did you guys? It takes away from like the true heart of a story, in my opinion, and it just kind of becomes, you know, irritating and a bit like dick waving. Like, oh, guess what? I threw you for a loop there. I think they threw us for too many loops with that movie. So they're both bad. Which one would I say is worse? In all honesty, I'd probably say that The Force Awakens is worse. You know, The Last Jedi, for its shortcomings, did at least try to advance the characters or give them some more depth. I enjoyed the Kylo Ren stuff in The Last Jedi, which is one thing I can say was a positive compared to anything in The Force Awakens. So I guess I say the worst one is Force Awakens, but like, man, that's like putting a gun to my head. You know, like they're both as bad as each other, in my opinion. JX Editor writes, Chris, when are you going to realize you should just do a weekly live talk show? I've actually been considering doing that, man. Are you talking about like movie news or just like a shooting the shit with you guys? Because I'm cool with doing either of those things. The news show would obviously take more research time, and we all have lives outside of this. Believe me, I wish I could be doing this full time. I wish I could be like earning a living off doing YouTube, but it is kind of, you know, a pipe dream. I'm not going to give it up because this is my passion. I love talking about films and everything like that. So this channel isn't going anywhere. I'm always going to keep doing what I'm doing. Regardless of what happens with the channel, like I'm still going to be here. Like the nuclear like bombs are going to go off, and like around me is going to be the ash cloud. I'm still going to be like connected up to a computer talking about movies. So shooting some shit. Would you guys like that? Would you like more videos like this? Maybe not doing it as like you watch along commentary on Mary Poppins. Maybe I may have gone too far in a few places, but it's nice to have it as background noise. I'm still looking down and seeing what's going on. They're just kind of like on merry-go-round horses right now. Which actually kind of look more ridiculous than the coconut shells of Monty Python. I'm wondering if this would have been weird for the actors, though, because, I mean, we take it for granted now. I'm going back to Mary Poppins here, where, you know, they're used to working with motion capture and green screen or, like, reacting to something that isn't there. I wonder how they would have fared with this because I haven't seen any behind the scenes on this movie. I don't know if behind the scenes stuff existed or if they filmed anything like that, or maybe it's probably just interview based. I mean, for the time, 1964, it is pretty ambitious. I'm guessing they've integrated. I think films have integrated live action and animation before this point, but I think certainly this was one of the ones that really showed, how far they could go with it. And speaking of the animation, actually, the author of the book, P.L. Travers, she was like the creative consultant on the movie. And actually, I completely forgot this movie existed. But Saving Mr. Banks with Tom Hanks, I think that goes into the behind the scenes of Mary Poppins with Walt Disney trying to get this off the ground. I know that Walt Disney tried to get the rights to this movie very, very early on. I think in like the 30s, if I remember rightly. I'm just having a look here to see if I can find it. Was it 1931? Did I read? I can't find it now. Oh, 1938. He tried to get the rights to Mary Poppins, and Travers, the writer of the books, shot him down, saying that she didn't believe a film version of the books could work. And even then, when like he was going to change the setting and add music and add an animated segment, she like fought vehemently to get the animated segment stuff took out of the movie. But I think there was probably some fine print on the contract where Disney overruled and had the final say on the product. And Disney will be Disney, but it worked. Like this movie absolutely worked. It got however many Oscar nominations, didn't it? I think it was 13 Academy Award nominations, which is incredible. And during Walt Disney's life, it was actually the only movie that got a Best Picture nomination during his lifetime, which is pretty incredible. But it won 5 Academy Awards, which is awesome. It definitely deserves it. You do look, and it is a very historically important film. You can see why it's a classic, but even watching it now, like it's not my jam. Like it's really not my jam. It's not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination, but it's very of the time. Yeah. Right, let's get back to some questions. But yeah, going back to like the whole topic of like a weekly show, like I guess like I mean it's great that we've had such a great turnout on this thing. Like it says that I've got 5 viewers now. This is awesome. When I have commenters like this and I can keep talking all the way through, that's awesome. But so often when we go live, and we always tend to be pretty unannounced when we are going live, when you don't have anyone there, it'd be difficult to like just kind of tread water and shoot the shit with myself essentially. But maybe if I did like a scheduled day and said like I will be going live at this time at this day every single week, feel free to jump in and ask me anything you like. Maybe that could be doable. If you guys would like to see that, like let me know, man. I'm grateful that people want to hear me prattle on about things. That's that's nice to hear. Auburn writes, I think that Mary Poppins is a character that never ages. She is full of magic. I think having a Mary Poppins that has aged would have taken away from the magic of her character. Some of the wonder is her youthfulness. Yeah, I can agree with that, absolutely. Maybe they do a kind of Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus thing where she constantly keeps changing her form. Oh, here we go. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Boom, mic drop. Let's talk about the music for this film for a second before I continue going back to some questions. So the Sherman Brothers did the composition for this movie and wrote the songs, not the score, but the songs. And in fact, I think they wrote a total of 30 songs for this movie, and a lot of them I think you can find in demos, but I don't think any of them have been properly released. And there are a lot of deleted songs from this movie. But it's a testament to the Sherman Brothers. They have written so many scores for a lot of films, but especially Disney. They did the music to The Jungle Book, with the exception of The Bare Necessities, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, The Aristocats, and they even wrote the "It's a Small World" song, for the ride at Disneyland, Disney World. They also did the music to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. But this is, I think, when I think of Mary Poppins, maybe not the film itself or like the actual characters, although I understand the appeal of Mary Poppins as a character. To me, the draw is, without a question of a doubt, the music. Spoonful of Sugar, Chim Chimney, Chim Chimney. This song. And Julie Andrews is so great as well. for a first feature film. I know she was a stage actress, and this is very much kind of stage based. Still, it's very theatrical, as I said earlier. And you just think like how her career would have been different. Like when I watch this movie, I can't imagine anyone else being Mary Poppins other than Julie Andrews. So like how would her career have changed if she had have got the part in My Fair Lady, which she was doing on Broadway before, but sadly she didn't get the film role. And then look would have it that she gets the gig for this thing, and then her career's changed completely after that. I think when Disney originally came to her as well for the role, she was 3 months pregnant, and she was really worried that she wouldn't be able to, have the role because of that. But Disney said, like, we'll wait for you. We'll wait for you to have the baby and get settled, and then we can start filming after that, which is really cool. Really cool of him to do that. I think when you like, I haven't done casting or anything like that before, but I can only imagine like when you see someone and you know that that person is destined for that role, you will go the extra mile. You will wait in case situations happen, and you have to work around it and change the schedule. Right, let's get back to some questions. I like this. I like how we've got a varied bunch of stuff though, because I think that if we'd have just kept it to like, I love talking about Disney, but if we had just kept it to Disney and Mary Poppins questions, it may have been a bit limiting. So yeah, just let's see this as a Christmas Q&A video. Why not? Maybe I should have done that instead, but it is what it is. Jake's editor writes, you want to do a pre-release review of Kenobi when it's almost done. It's almost done. Yeah, so I mean, I guess I can leave it to JX editor in the comments to talk about his project, but me and JX go way back. Not way back, but we go way back. I'm a fan editor. In my spare time in between the channel, I'm working on a Hobbit edit, which it feels like I've been working on half of my lifetime at this point. But yeah, like when I had problems, like I'll go onto YouTube and I type in Hobbit fan edit, and his channel came up with some of his changes, and I was like, that's a really cool way of doing that. I think that's amazing. Like I'd like to try and integrate something like that or something similar into my own edit. And JX was great. Like he recorded, video instructionals for me of how to achieve things. Like JX is like way superior in terms of editing than I could ever be. He uses a lot of software that I don't use. My software is very old hat at this point, pretty much. I am looking to hopefully in the new year to buy a new Mac and get some new software on there and try, teaching myself that stuff. But no, he was great. Like he was there. He was like sending me videos. He was offering me like different ways of thinking about things. Continues to do that. When I do upload my changes in between this channel and, my work life and social life and everything like that, I do work on my Hobbit edit. I do upload my changes and I get feedback on that. And, JX is always there. So that's really cool, man. But yeah, like, dude, if you want to send me like a link or something, if you're going to put it on like a Google Drive or whatever, like I'd be happy to watch your edit, man. That'd be awesome. Elizabeth Bradley writes, tuned in and thought this was Mary Poppins. No, it's Star Wars. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's all owned by Disney though, so we're still technically talking about Disney. Time check if anyone is watching the movie. You've probably got me muted at this point, so you can actually hear the film. We are 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds into the movie. So we're coming up to 1 hour, 3 minutes, essentially. And we're not even halfway. She's singing a lullaby to the kids at this point. Oh, isn't it cutesy? Isn't it lovely? Yeah, hate this cutesy shit. Yeah. Lucas writes, Adam Driver is a very wide man. Did anyone else have that reaction when they went to see The Last Jedi for the first time? Like, obviously they had to like put him in like a fucking shirtless scene, didn't they? Like it was just like, ugh. But like he turns around, like as I said, like I work out and stuff. When I saw that, I was like, fuck, that guy is stacked. Like shit, like that's the goals right there. But he wasn't like defined or like cut or anything like that. He was just fucking broad. Like he was a big guy. Then again, I don't know if he chose to make the character like that or if Disney said like you've got to work out, but I imagine that he is in pretty good shape anyway. He used to be in the military. So, clearly he knows what he needs to do, what he needs to eat to look like that. But like, the guy was fucking huge. As you said, he was a very, very wide man. Yeah, so JX said like, yeah, if I did like a weekly talk show, for example, that'd be great. Maybe bring in a guest. Absolutely. Do you want to be a guest, man? If you want to shoot the shit with me, like, you know, we even said like, because we've like gone back and forth with our edits and stuff, and like we've never like spoken in person directly. We've always kept it like very much text based. Like maybe we should do like, I don't know, like talk about fan edits and stuff like that. I don't know, other stuff as well. Like I don't know if you just want to talk about that full time, but we're both passionate about editing, so maybe we could do that. Talk about some other stuff. Talk about Star Wars. Talk about Middle Earth related stuff. I'm open to it, man. Lucas is behind the idea as well. He says, I think that would be great. It's a way for the content creator and then subscribers to be interactive. I'm always very conscious of that. And I'm always very worried that, you know, it's a fine balance because you're dividing your time between interacting with the audience and also getting the content out there. And although they're very short videos, the reaction videos, especially if they pile up on me, do take a lot of time to get done. I do tend to make a lot of mistakes sometimes when I am doing my reactions, so I have to I record it on QuickTime Video. The file size is absolutely huge, and then I have to put it into this like file changer. If I threw the raw file into my editing software, it would take like, you know, like an hour to render like a 10-second clip. So I have to make it so it's an appropriate file format for my editing software. I have to go through and edit the video and cut out all the times I fuck up. I then have to export the video, edit a thumbnail for it. Then I have to compress the video. Then I have to put it on YouTube, do all the information. Then I have to go on to the social media things and put that. And I know that's all part of it, but it does take, you know, a long time. The 2 reaction videos I did yesterday for Hellboy and Men in Black International, in total, like in between things, it took about 5 or 6 hours, you know, so it does take a while in between other things, obviously. But so it's very difficult, and I do want to be more interactive on the channel with you guys. Like as I said, like you guys are great. Thanks for sticking around. Thank you for everyone to like sticking with me tonight. Like it's Christmas Day. I wasn't expecting to get anyone on this thing. I thought everyone's going to be doing what they do, you know. But it's awesome that you guys have like jumped on with me. It's just having that guarantee. Like we have tried things in the past, for example, with our Oscars live stream, where we have tried to be interactive with people and said, like, send us in your Oscar predictions for a chance to feature on one of our future episodes. And we don't get anything sent in. We do have Twitter, and I'm very conscious that we're not very active on Twitter. Essentially, our Twitter account is, check out our new review for this. We're about to go live for this review. And that's pretty much it. We don't tend to be, you know, update it with movie news or movie-related things, and maybe that's a problem. So we don't really have an audience on Twitter. And we don't really have much of an engagement on Facebook either. Like Facebook is just a way that we can upload our content. I think inherently, most people do tend to just follow our content off YouTube, which is fair enough. But it's very difficult to be interactive on that. And also like the view count is so erratic on our videos. It's insane. You know, like one trailer reaction could get like a couple of thousand views. The Force Awakens trailer reaction we did, I think, got like 27 or 28,000 views. And then we could do a movie review that gets like 20 or 30 views. So it's difficult to maintain that interaction or announce things that are happening later in the week. So I don't know if there'd be a way around that. Maybe a schedule, as I said, like if we committed to a day and a time each week. Let's see what else we've got. And also Mary Poppins. Let's see what else we've got. Auburn writes, the hard part is the time difference. A lot of times when Cinema Savvy comes on, it's early afternoon, which many of the US viewers are working on or in class. A scheduled time would definitely help with viewership, especially if it's really evening US time. I will say that the bulk of our audience definitely is US based, and I have been more conscious of that, the whole time difference thing. So in terms of my reaction videos, maybe it'll be worth scheduling uploads if I could do that, perhaps. So what time did I go live for this? I went live today. It was about 6 o'clock, wasn't it? Something like that, 6 p.m. Or maybe just after, like 6:30. The time differences are weird for you, US viewers. Which times would work for you? Would it be like late evening, in which case I'd need to upload something at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning for me? Auburn says, have to run. Have a wonderful rest of your holiday. Thank you very much, Auburn. I really appreciate you jumping on the stream. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your holiday. Eat food, be merry, drink alcohol or water. Either one. No, thank you very much for jumping on. I appreciate it. See you, Auburn. JX says, have you got an email I could use? Yeah, man, I'll if you've got a personal message thing on your YouTube channel, I'll drop you my email after I'm finished on the stream tonight. Lucas McManus. Adam Driver looks like a wardrobe with arms and legs. I've got to think he just did it for the role of Kylo Ren, and I don't know whether it's the costume, because his costume it almost looks like it's made of wool, like he's got that very like thick sort of like body suit kind of thing, that military sort of suit. So maybe he was that buff in the first movie, but he didn't look that buff. He really didn't. So I don't know if he just decided to do that for the character, because you see him in other stuff like Black Klansman, for example. And he looks like a big guy, but he doesn't look anywhere near the absolute behemoth he was in The Last Jedi. So we've just got this guy on here now. I haven't been watching the movie, so I don't know his name, but an hour and 10, this guy's just like laughing and he's on the ceiling. I think he did the voice of the Mad Hatter in Disney's Alice in Wonderland, the animated one. He sounds exactly the same. You know, where he's like, mustard, let's not be silly. So, Ron, I love to laugh right now. I remember what it was like to laugh once. Like, if I could like fade the webcam to like black and white right now and bring in Sound of Silence, that would be great. Let's see what else we've got. JX Editor writes, Adam Driver wasn't wide. His waist was covered, tricking the eye into fucking up the proportions. P.S. I'll guest on your show, editing, fan edit stuff, other stuff. That'll be cool. Yeah, man. We'll get it set up. I'll drop you my email after we're finished here, and we'll see when we can get our schedules together. Well, if it was all of trick of the eye then with Adam Driver and like having a very wide waist, like obviously he did have his like pants up very, very high, maybe I should just start doing that and I'll look absolutely ripped as fuck. Although I will say, like, at one point, Adam Driver was the goal for like absolute body goals that I want to reach. If any guys have seen Creed 2, Victor Drago in that movie, like that's at the top now, man. That's goals. Panda Bear says a talk show would be great. Live questions and written. And as for animation, Gene Kelly loved it and used this a lot in his movies. He danced with Jerry the Mouse in Anchor's Way. I haven't seen Anchor's Way. I did assume that, you know, there would be older films that did this stuff before. But yeah, I need to go back and watch a lot of old movies. There are so many. If we're talking about films I need to watch, like, my God, if you go on like Google and type in greatest movies of all time, a lot of them are like these more old school movies, and I haven't seen them. So I need to get back to that. We did have a show on the channel. We had a host on the channel who's still on our group chat on Facebook, but he hasn't put out any content in a long time. I think I don't know. I think it was, you know, his own, you know, personal life, his work schedule and everything. And maybe he just lost the passion for it. He did a show called The Best Picture, and he was going in under the pretense and the goal of reviewing every single, you know, Academy Award winning Best Picture movie from the Oscars inception all the way up until the recent year. And those videos were great, and he used footage from the movie, and it was scripted, and it was, you know, very analytical and also opinion based. I'd love to start doing something like that, because that, you know, not only do I think it would be a great, you know, change of pace on the channel in between the main reviews and the trailer reaction videos, but it'll also give me the chance to watch some of these old films, these old great movies that I haven't watched yet. It's so difficult with like life being what it is, and the fact that we also have to be, pretty much at the cinema like every single week, especially with this December where there's like been 5 or 6 big movies released. It's also difficult to go back and watch a lot of these old films or commit to them. In fact, a lot of the movies that I need to actually see are all like 3 hours or 3.5 hours or something like that. You know, they're your big epics, like your big war films like Bridge Over the River Kwai, Ben-Hur, The Sound of Music. I think The Sound of Music won Best Picture. So it's a lot of films like that where you really have to be in that mindset to sit and watch them. Gone with the Wind, for example. Let's see what else we have. JX Editor writes, I use the JX Editor Twitter less than you use yours. Yeah, we kind of jumped on the whole Twitter thing because when we were getting our channel going, you know, we didn't have a clue what to do, essentially. Like, we'd watched a lot of YouTubers talking about the same kinds of stuff that we do, movie reviews and everything like that. Your big channels, you had Schmoes Know, you had Collider, you had Jeremy Johns and stuff like that. We wanted to kind of do our own thing and have our own personalities and our own opinions on it. But, you know, they're just like pumping the Twitter content out. But obviously they have, I don't know about Jeremy Johns, maybe he does now, but, you know, Collider, especially in Schmoes, they're a huge production team. Like, they have people working behind the scenes putting out all that social media content. When you're a small group or like one person or whatever, it's very, very difficult to also maintain that side of things as well. Let's see what else we've got. Lucas writes, I've just recently started my first job working for an insurance broker, and it seemed like 60% of my wage went straight to Christmas. I thought I'd love payday, but no. Don't even talk to me about money, man. Like, money is just like fairy dust. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real. Yeah, man, money is like a very tricky situation. It's what makes the world go round, sadly. But yeah, Christmas has like hit me in the ass, man. Like, it really, really has. Waiting for January payday. That's going to be the greatest payday of my life. But it's also my birthday, and like, you know, I'm going to be 26. It's not really like, you know, like a benchmark birthday or anything like that. But I do want to do something for it this year. But I don't know. I've never really like made a fuss of my birthday or anything like that. Like, I never really, even if I'm working at a job, like, I never tell people when my birthday is. So if people don't know when it is, they're just none the wiser. It's just another day to me usually. But maybe I'll do something this year, money permitting, if I actually have some funds. I segued back to Mary Poppins, and I just got the line, I'm very sorry, I ran over your cat. So it's still on this. I feel like I've been talking for like 20 minutes, and they're still doing this Love to Laugh song. But his voice is so great. This guy, the guy who did the voice of Mad Hatter. Apparently, the author of the book, I was reading about this as well, Travis, she really didn't like the fact of Julie Andrews' portrayal. Not so much her as an actress, but the material they gave to work with. I think in the book, Mary Poppins' character is a lot harsher and colder, very no nonsense. Whereas I think Julie Andrews has that nice balance where, you know, she is very caring, she is very nice, but, you know, she will like verbally bitch slap you if you get out of line. And I like that. She seems a lot more, you know, approachable in this movie. So how long do we have left of this movie? So time check, we are just coming up to 1 hour 18 minutes. We've got another hour left. This is a long movie, guys. I'm an hour in, and I know I've been talking over the top of it, but Jesus Christ. George actually watched this movie for the first time a few weeks ago. I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He loved it. He absolutely loved it. Oh, there was just another comment there for a second by Panda Bear, but it says message retracted. So I don't know if you want to send that through again, or I don't know what happened there. Something about collaborating with other movie reviewers, was it? Jags Editor writes, throughout my teens, I was so good with money, people, and manipulation that I never really needed money. That led to me not having a real job, some occasional work in a studio. My family was convinced I was a drug dealer. Yeah, man, I'm looking for a new job in January. The job that I currently work, it's not anything related to like production or film or editing or anything like that. It's so difficult to get into that line of work, man. Like if you're not, and as I said, like with me, like I definitely do need to learn more up-to-date softwares like Adobe Creative Suite, for example, After Effects, Adobe Premiere, little bit of Photoshop maybe. They tend to be the most sought after things. And as I said, my Mac is very old hat. I'm still working on Final Cut Pro 7, which, you know, I'm comfortable with. I know my way around it almost completely, pretty much. But I do kind of need to like get up to date if I do want to go into that line of work. But, you know, I'm still selling, selling. I'm just reading your comment there. I'm still searching for a production-based job or something like that, even if I do get some kind of training. So hopefully going into 2019 positive, hopefully I can land something like that. JX Editor, you want to buy some death sticks? You don't want to sell me death sticks. In all honesty, if I was in Star Wars, I would probably try some death sticks because they sound fucking awesome. How did you about like we know that like death sticks like and there's probably like a fucking Wikipedia article on the internet or something like telling me what death sticks are. I haven't read into that, so I don't know what the hell they are. In my head as a kid, like you kind of know that there's some kind of like dodgy substance like drugs or something. How would you take death sticks? In my opinion, they're like going to be like a sort of like, you know, like a dog chew or something like that, and you just bite them and like there's some kind of like hallucinogenic thing, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what death sticks are, but they sound awesome. Hey, you want to go home and rethink your life? Lucas writes, don't know if you watch it, but the In-Betweeners 10-year anniversary 2-hour special is on Channel 4 at 9 p.m. on New Year's Day for UK viewers. I love In-Betweeners. You watch it, are excited for it. Man, this is awesome. And actually, I need to like find out where you guys are from. Like, I know JX, you're from the US. Lucas, I'm assuming you're from the UK based on what you just said there. Although I know that the In-Betweeners is, you know, played in the US, and we're not talking about that horrible US equivalent version of the In-Betweeners either. We're talking about the British one. I love the In-Betweeners. It's easily one of my favorite comedy shows, and it tends to get repeated quite a lot on comedy channels in the UK. I own the movie as well. The first movie was fantastic. Wasn't too keen on movie number 2. But yeah, I can't wait for that, dude. Like, it's going to be amazing. I've seen the pictures on Facebook where, you know, they've obviously all aged up now, but it's more In-Betweeners. I really hope it's good because sometimes when they do these anniversary things or so many years after, they're never as good. But, it's a 2-hour special. Like, if it is like brand new content for 2 hours, because I really don't want them to be, you know, like small little segments and then they're just going to do like essentially like a clip show and show the highlights of the TV series or the movies. That will really kill me if they do that. If it is 2 hours of solid new content, they may as well have called it In-Betweeners 3, right? Because that's essentially like a brand new movie. I can't wait for it, man. It's going to be awesome. JX Editor about death sticks. He says, I think you smoke them. Yeah, maybe they're more like cigarettes or something. Actually, on the subject of cigarettes, like I don't smoke personally. I've never smoked in my life. I think I may have like took like 2 drags off a cigarette when I was drunk one time, but that's a very hazy part of my mind. But I've never smoked. I've never been into that whole thing. But maybe they should start putting that on the pack of cigarettes. You know how they have that new warning now? I don't know if they have in the US, but for UK on packets of cigarettes, they have like, be careful, this will give you cancer or something like that on the front, or they'll have like a really disgusting picture of like a diseased lung or something like that on the front of the packet to try and deter people from buying them. Maybe they should just call cigarettes death sticks now, because, you know, it's pretty on the nose, right? Although I think death stick sounds like the most fucking heavy metal thing I've ever heard. There we go. We've talked about drugs. We've talked about cigarettes. We've talked about alcohol consumption in one of the most wholesome family films ever. And it's Christmas Day. This is awesome. This is why I do this thing. This is great. Jex puts, doesn't mean I don't like me some classic British TV. No, I'm not saying that, man, at all. Like, I didn't know whether they were readily available. Like, I know you get some BBC equivalent channels over there where you can watch stuff like Blackadder and, you know, old school stuff like that. I just didn't know whether In Between Us, the UK version, was over there in the US. Jake's right. As opposed to now, as it seems, British TV has been taken over by game shows, crime dramas, and cooking shows. I barely watch TV now, dude. Like conventional, regular TV, there's never anything on. If a movie's on, it's full of ad breaks, and that just pisses me off now. I used to watch it as a kid, and there was a kind of charm to it as well in the days of like VHS cassette tapes where you could record stuff off the TV. Having those movies that you remember as a kid, you could like pinpoint where all the ad breaks were, and you'd get so used to watching that version that when you do watch the regular film, it feels weird not having the ad breaks in there. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience with movies, but yeah, now it just really annoys me. If I can just like boot up the internet or like, you know, grab like a Blu-ray or a DVD I've got or whatever and just watch a movie beginning to end without like an extra half hour tacked on it with ad breaks, I'm gonna do it. You know, and also the fact, because you so often the case with movies on the TV, you get edited for TV movies. It just really annoys me. If they there's I don't know if the US has this as well. There's a thing called the watershed for UK viewers, which used to be 9 p.m. I don't know if it's 10 p.m. now. And that was like the cutoff point. Anything played after that, you could have swearing in it, you could have sex in it, you know, all that's violence and all that stuff. So you tend to get your more hard-hitting movies on TV at that time. Anything before, you know, it'd be your family films or anything like that. But they're putting movies on that are like a 12A and removing a lot of content from it. Like they had the Lord of the Rings on, for example, the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers on like a couple of months ago. And they're editing lines out, like completely innocuous lines from the orcs and the Uruk-hai, probably because they look a bit scary. Then don't fucking put the movie on the TV, man. It just really, really annoys me, that stuff. So I don't watch conventional TV. If I watch TV, you know, it'll be Netflix stuff or, you know, streaming shows now. And I think that's where most viewership has moved to now, on that more online streaming platform. Panda Bear writes, say, Chris, do you hook up with any other movie reviewers? I don't know what you're exactly implying there. Hook up, like that has a few connotations. I think you just mean like meet up with or do reviews with. And then, why did you get involved into movie reviewing? You're very knowledgeable about movies. It's great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do I hook up with other movie reviewers? I've done collaborations in the past. Collaborations is one thing that if I'm going to have like a 2019 goal for the channel, it's to do way more collaborations than we've been doing for the last 3 years. Coming up to 4 years in April. That's insane how quickly it's gone in that time. I've met up with a YouTube reviewer called Itzmo. We hung out in London. We went to a DC exhibition. I think on her YouTube channel, she's actually editing footage for that now. I actually got done doing a Aquaman review with her on the channel. I think it's like a couple of videos before this. I think it's like 3 videos before this. So check that out. In the past, I provided my voice for another channel. I think it was Hunter Killer's channel. He does a series of videos where it's taking films that perhaps weren't very well received or had a lot of, you know, criticism thrown at them, and he rewrites a script for them or a story treatment, and he sent me the script and I provided my voice for it. I think I did one for, I think it was How Man of Steel Should Have Gone or something like that, and I provided my voice for that. And in terms of collaborations, like we brought people onto the channel. We've brought like our friend Dave on from the channel Life of Brian, who has a series of videos where he collects magazines where it's like build your own R2-D2 or something, and each like weekly issue you'll get a new part. We've hung out with him. But in terms of like bigger collaborations, like I would absolutely love to do that, but I don't know if they'd want to collaborate with a lowly YouTuber like myself. I know we've got like 1,500 subscribers almost, which, you know, is a great total, and thank you to everyone. But maybe they are looking for those guys that have more subscribers. I don't know. It's finding people that are willing to do it. You know, like I'm always down for doing collaborations with someone. And then the second part of your question, and why did you get into movie reviewing? I've always loved movies. Movies have always been my biggest passion in life, even as a kid. Like, it's one of the things that I like, you know, I thank my dad the most for, is like taking me to the cinema on a weekly basis as a kid and just falling in love with movies. Like the movie theory and stuff like came into it later on with, you know, like my college degree and university and everything like that, where that's where I really started to like study movies more. But I'd always be that guy where like my friends would come over and they, you know, they just want to hang out and be like, have you seen this movie? I'd like go through my DVD shelf and like pick out all the movies you haven't seen. And they'd pick out like a big one. I'd be like, right, we're watching this tonight. You don't get a say in this. Because I loved like getting people's thoughts on movies that I was passionate about, or sharing films or spreading them around that, you know, that people hadn't seen. And I guess like because I wanted them to also witness it, but a big part of it was for my own benefit, where I'd then have a chance to talk about that movie with someone. As I said, like growing up, the movies I was watching, a lot of people didn't know what they were. Even as far back as I can remember, like as a kid on the playground, when you know, like Lord of the Rings or especially Phantom Menace were at the height. When I got those on video, I watched Phantom Menace probably about like 2 or 3 times every day. I actually memorized the entire script, and I'm actually, pat myself on the back, I'm actually pretty good at remembering film scripts if I do watch it many times. And on the playground, I'd be like, right, I was a bit of a prick of a kid, actually, now I think about it. I was like, right, shut up, everyone. We're playing Phantom Menace right now. You can be Qui-Gon, you can be Obi-Wan. And because I know the script, we'd go through the entire movie. It's really, really sad that I'm owning up to that now, but movies have always just been there. You know, movies have been my therapy, continue to be my therapy. Like, you know, if I'm not feeling great or feeling particularly down about something, movies are that great escape. They always will be. And there's still a lot of movies I need to watch. And why I started the channel more specifically was because that, you know, a lot of my friends go and see movies. A lot of people just go and see movies, but not many people critique them, study them, analyze them, form an opinion of them. It's kind of just a day out to them, which is fine. You know, if like most people just say like, you know, get your coat, we're going to the movie theater, we're going to watch a movie. They'll go and see it. Yeah, that was good. Boom. And then they move on with their day. I was never that guy. I've never been that guy. I will always go and see a movie and just want to like find the nearest person and just like talk for like 45 minutes to an hour with that person about that movie. And, you know, I was kind of tired of just going to the movies with my friends and just going like, oh, that movie was awesome. What did you think? It was all right. And I'd be like, and like any more to that? And it was just like, no, it was all right. So I never had that outlet. And I wanted that outlet. And, you know, we live in the YouTube age. I'm subscribed to lots of movie reviewers and everything like that. And there was just one point where I was like, I'd like to do that. And I've never been a very confident guy. Believe it or not, like I really, really haven't been a confident guy. So I knew that, you know, I could probably have done the channel on my own. But I knew that I like having that back and forth. I like having that someone to bounce off of, which is why this stream's been great tonight, that you guys have been throwing questions at me. It's awesome. And I think I was on because Schmoes know now why that channel is still on YouTube. They've integrated and become part of Collider. But at the time, like a couple of years ago, they had a forum on YouTube. It was like a fan page. I don't know if it was a closed group. And you had to, every post you did, it was really like totalitarian. It was really like, it was almost like a dictatorship, actually. Every post that you made on that discussion page on the Facebook page had to be related in some way to the Schmoes Know. So I found a loophole, and I said like, loved watching this review from you guys, Schmoes Know. Like, you brought up a really lot of great points in this. I found your channel very inspiring over the years. I've always wanted to do this, and you've given me the push. If any, and then like as a little like fine print at the bottom, I was like, by the way, if there's anyone out there that would like to join me on a movie channel, like creating a YouTube channel, that would be great. And then, you know, someone put in the comments, said like, yeah, like they must have like searched my profile, saw the location where I lived and realized, oh, actually I'm UK based as well. Like I don't live particularly far from you. And that guy was George. And we got talking, and then the rest is history. We created the channel. We've been learning as we go. We continue to learn. We're always trying to come up with new ways of doing things. But all three of us have, we still are part of the channel and we'll make content. But with work, like George has moved, Tate's moved to Austria for the time being for his work. We have kind of gone our separate ways at the moment, but we are still planning on getting together and doing content, which is why I've been kind of like trying to still keep content going on the channel. That is my very long-winded answer to your question, Panda Bear, but thank you for the question for that. JX Editor writes, we're being very candid on this. Let it snow, let it snow. Speaking of which, have you ever done coke? I have never done coke in my life. I've got offered the opportunity once. A lot of the movies I watch, especially like being, the 80s being so part of my blood and like loving 80s hair metal where they were pretty much existing on cocaine the entirety of the 80s and into the 90s. Being surrounded by that heavy metal scene, and also the films that I watch, like a lot of the 80s, but like Scarface, for example, is one of my favorite movies. Wolf of Wall Street is fantastic. And you do get these scenes where they are constantly taking coke. There is a part of me that is curious to try it just to then connect that to the movies I've seen to see what all the fuss is about. But, then you do get the very harsh reality of it. And you do see interviews with people that have taken coke and, there's been something else mixed in there and they've like gone into a stroke and they've completely like fucked up their lives and everything like that. And then I think like, well, if I did try it, I probably would be that guy where knowing my luck, something bad would happen. And, I don't want to do it. One of my friends actually did coke one time. We went on a night out. We came back. And, he offered me a line, but, seeing him do it at the time, it was kind of that like harsh reality to it. When you've seen it forever and always on a TV screen, and then you see it in real life, it is so, so different. And I didn't do it. I didn't have the balls to do it. And I don't even know if I would do it. So don't do drugs, kids. There's your Saturday morning cartoon moral of the story as we watch one of the most wholesome family movies ever made. Also, Mary Poppins is playing right now. We are an hour and 36 minutes into it. But, this is fun. This has been fun, Like, I don't know how I would have fared if I was just, like, sticking rigidly to Mary Poppins. And, loophole, I have talked about Mary Poppins periodically throughout, in between questions. Let's see if we've got anything else. JX, going back to the part where I said about like people expecting ad breaks in movies that you've watched, he's put I still expect a Pizza Hut commercial to play in the middle of Batman and Robin. I always had Batman and Robin on video, man, but Jim Carrey's The Mask, I still remember all the ad breaks for that. Dumb and Dumber, I think it was mostly the Jim Carrey films, actually, now I think about it. I can't remember what other films I recorded off the TV. And JX has pretty much like highlighted that beautifully, like about the whole streaming service he's put. We don't watch as much TV, but our viewing of TV shows has increased dramatically. Yeah. And it's also, and I know that are still TV shows out that do that, but if we're talking about, streaming based now, I do kind of miss that with TV shows. One of the biggest TV shows that, forever and always will be one of my favorites, despite having a very unfulfilling ending, was Lost. And I absolutely loved Lost. I followed that religiously for 6 years. And there was something nice about waiting week to week for an episode. Like it would end on a cliffhanger and you'd be like, oh my God, I need that episode now. There was that hype. There was that anticipation. And now very much with streaming services, especially like Netflix, it's like, boom, there you go. There's your 10 or 13 episodes. And then you can watch it in your own time, which is great. Like you can marathon it. You can get through it quickly. If I'm like talking about Daredevil, RIP, Netflix's Daredevil, by the way, you can essentially watch those 10 to 13 episodes as like a solid elongated movie. It feels very much like a movie when you watch it beginning to end. But I do kind of miss TV shows like that where you did have that anticipation week to week for that episode to find out the conclusion of it. JX puts, oh, so I'm just a tool to be used for the New Year's resolution. No, man, you're not. Come on, I'm not saying that at all. What I meant by that was that, it would be nice to get more interaction with other YouTube channels. Just for a bit of a change, like, are you guys tired of seeing us? Like, do you want to see something else, like the channel? Like, give us input, like, we'll, or criticisms, like, we'll take it on board. Chim chimney, chim chim chiri. So this song actually won the Oscar for Best Original Song. Mary Poppins won 5 Academy Awards. It won one for Best Actress for Julie Andrews, Best Film Editing, Best Original Music Score, Best Visual Effects, and Best Original Song for Chim Chimmery. And I think I said this in my reaction video for Mary Poppins Returns, in that I defy anyone to find like a Disney's Greatest Hits CD or compilation that doesn't have a song from Mary Poppins on it. Lucas writes, the biggest TV stuff I watch is Walking Dead and, of course, Game of Thrones. I used to watch Walking Dead. I dropped off it about 2 episodes into season 3, and I haven't had the heart to go back to it. I loved season 1 of Walking Dead. I think it was like 6 episodes. They were constantly moving. Season 2 hit, and they just stuck at that farm for like 20 episodes, and it absolutely just killed me, man. So I haven't gone back to it. Game of Thrones is fantastic. Obviously, it's pushed the envelope so much for fantasy TV, TV in general. It almost feels like a film, and it's nice to see they have been given like more and more budget as it's gone. But season 7 for Game of Thrones was the absolute pits. I own all the seasons on Blu-ray. Season 7 is still in the cellophane since I bought it. I can't bring myself to watch it again. I think the fact that they really shrunk down the length of the episodes really, really hurt that series. It felt like, right, we just need to get everyone to where they need to be, regardless of geographical distance or logic or anything like that. It felt very easy, and I think now they've deviated from the book so much. Why the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones are so strong is because they had that anchor of George R.R. Martin's material, whereas when they've kind of gone on their own direction, it has become almost like a fan fiction. But yeah. Jax writes, there's a reason fuck that farm is a common phrase amongst Walking Dead fans. I didn't even realize that was a phrase. As I said, like, I've stopped following Walking Dead, so I'm not part of any like groups or forums or anything like that. I don't follow The Walking Dead. But it's nice to know that it's not just casual fans that fucking hated that farm. They're now sweeping a chimney. Strap in, folks. It's going to be one hell of a ride. I'm not saying that Mary Poppins needs more explosions and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. I don't know, man. It's difficult. Like, I'm watching the movie in passing, but it's just, there's something about, I was hoping that I'd come back to this movie, and maybe if I did solidly sit down and watch it, I'd, like be following it more and everything like that. But I can tell that this isn't my kind of movie. I can still regard it as a classic, though. Also, speaking of the title of classics with Mary Poppins, I don't know if anyone else remembers this. Maybe this was just for UK retailers, but I've got Mary Poppins on VHS, as well as Bed Knobs and Broomsticks and So Dear to My Heart. And a lot of the actually, I'm going to get another Disney film off my shelf to just like show you what I'm talking about. Be right back. Ugh. Right, so Disney are renowned for doing this, where they keep constantly changing their classics, like spine or like the design of the covers, especially the DVD. That's why I'm really hoping that my complete collection of the Disney classics with the slip covers, they really don't change that design. If they change that design, I need to like rebuy everything I've already bought, and I'm not going to do it. But in terms of the VHS cassette tapes, they may be more than this, but to me, there were three distinct ways that they'd label Disney classics on the spines. You had the original load for like older Disney films. This is 101 Dalmatians, where classics would be written, you know, like that, very, you know, bog standard. Then as we moved into the 90s, the classics would move to the gold banner there. And then the more recent cases that they brought out with, you know, like the big blocky Disney Mickey Mouse-eared blue cases, they'd switch to that, where, I don't know if you guys can see that, I'm getting a bit of glare, classics, and it was like underlined by that arcing shooting star thing. Now, the animated classics are obviously regarded as the classics, the numbered classics. In fact, a lot of them on the back did label what number they were. For example, Great Mouse Detective says this is the 26th animated Disney classic. But when they released Mary Poppins on a video like this, that also had classics written like that, as did Bedknobs and Broomsticks and So Dear to My Heart and Pete's Dragon. They're not classics, though. They're not part of the Disney animated classics line, so I don't really know why they put them in those cases with that particular design there. I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows the reason for that, or if you had the same thing if you're a US viewer or anything like that. That's a little bit of Disney nerdery there. Panda Bear writes, what is up with the King Arthur and Robin Hood movies? Why are they so lazy? So I haven't seen the recent Robin Hood movie, although the trailers look absolutely diabolical. I just couldn't get to it. There were so many films out, and it was like, do I really want to go and see it and do a review? It's probably going to get like 20 views, if that. Is it worth traveling into town, going to see the movie, you know, taking out like essentially like half a day just to go and see that, when I know that it's going to be bad? And I know that that's bad of me as a movie critic, as like a movie reviewer. You have to give every movie a chance. I get it. But very often than not, I'm very good at predicting whether I'm going to like or dislike a movie. Obviously, there are some exceptions to the rule, but mostly I know that I'm going to not like it. I don't know, to be honest. Like, by the King Arthur movie, I'm assuming you're meaning the recent, was it Legend of the Sword or whatever it was called? The Guy Ritchie movie. I actually haven't seen the early 2000s one with Keira Knightley, although I heard mixed things about that as well. I think it's just a question of, it's usually when they try and modernize them, you know, like I know that the new recent Robin Hood movie is still meant to be set in like, you know, the archaic times and everything like that, the time it's meant to be set. But for all intents and purposes, it looks so modern, like the music and the way it's shot and everything like that. If they just made like a traditional movie, like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, yeah, you did have your very of the time 90s power ballad by Bryan Adams, which is still, in my opinion, a great song. But it felt like that true swashbuckling, easy to watch blockbuster kind of movie. You know what I mean? Even Men in Tights, you know, Men in Tights was a great Robin Hood movie. The Disney Robin Hood movie as well, very different, obviously, but still a great film. I think it's just a question of execution. They just kind of missed the point of all those things. Lucas writes, apparently it took them 70 days or something to film the final battle in Game of Thrones. Did you hear that? Yeah, I did see something about that. I can't remember the exact amount of days, but I know they had, I don't know if it was a call sheet or something like that for the production, and they had like how many days shoot it was going to be. And then there was a post on Facebook that said like the Watchers on the Wall episode 9 of season 4, which was a phenomenal battle sequence on the TV. That had it was the Battle of the Bastards, I think they compared it to, which was even better than Watchers on the Wall. And they said that, you know, this took a certain amount of days, X amount of days to film. And the one for the final battle, or whatever it's going to be in the new series of Game of Thrones, season 8, was like 3 times the amount of days that it took them to shoot that. So I'm very, very much looking forward to it. I love my fantasy battles. I'm a huge mark for them. You know, like the Battle of Helm's Deep from anything from Lord of the Rings. Just anything from Lord of the Rings. Game of Thrones as well is awesome for the small screen. So I can't wait to see how season 8 ends. And then I'm still going to be waiting for the following 2 novels from George R.R. Martin. I think I should just like give up on hope that those books will ever be released. I've got to the point now where like I have read the Game of Thrones books, but that was around, oh God, when was I at uni? I read those books it took me a year to read all of them, and I finished them around 2013, I think. I think it's like second year of my uni degree. So it'll be like 6 years since I've read those, and they are immense books with much detail in them. So when books 6 and 7 do come out, I am going to have to go back all the way to book one and read through them again because the books are so different to the TV show. And I don't know if I've even got the enthusiasm at this point. When season 8 ends, that's going to be the end to the story. Will I care about Game of Thrones after that? Probably not. And straight after that, after Game of Thrones finishes, they're on that fantasy TV series Cash Cow. They've got like 5 spin-offs planned for Game of Thrones. We've got the Amazon Middle Earth series, Lord of the Rings series, whatever it's going to be, which I think is like the most expensive TV show ever made, I think, even more so than Game of Thrones. JX Editor writes, Yo, Chris, do you mind if I post a link here? It's to an edit I will not... it's to an edit I will not release because it was just thrown together because I actually hate it. Yeah, man, if you want to post a link, go for it, man. Because this chat will stay up after I finish the stream so I can check it out afterwards. It's the Last Jedi edit titled The Coward's Cut, though in the past I've also called it The Boring Cut. Also, the You Will Shut Up edition. I was in a bit of a dark place. So I'm guessing you've taken all the worst scenes of the movie and just slapped them together. Like, can't you just leave the movie as it is in that case? JX writes, have you heard of the Game of Thrones edit that turned season 1 into a movie with the Lord of the Rings score? The guy's working on follow-ups. I have not heard about that. I would very much like to check that out. Like, I think the Lord of the Rings score would still work very much with Game of Thrones. I've actually been interested in that, actually, like editing Game of Thrones as a movie or keeping it as close to the book as possible. It does mean, as an editor, you do have to, as like a fan editor, you do have to be merciless and just cut out the material that's superfluous or not needed, or maybe it's material that is reiterated later on in the film. I can't imagine editing Game of Thrones as a movie, though. Like, I think if it had to be a movie, you would have to make it 3 to 4 hours, which means taking 6 hours of content from season 1 and getting rid of it completely. I don't know how that would work. I think you would sacrifice a lot, but I check it out. Lucas, I'm going to have to go now. Family is coming around. Great stream, Chris. Enjoy the rest of your stream. And bye. Thank you so much, Lucas, for jumping on. I really appreciate it, man. Have a good holiday season. Have a great Christmas, and I'll speak to you soon on the next stream, man. I'm getting 2 links now. Well, thank you very much, JX. Christmas has come early. Unfortunately, that present is The Last Jedi. Going back very, very briefly to Mary Poppins. Shocker, I'm actually watching Mary Poppins right now. What I like about this movie is, I mentioned earlier, like the very set-based stuff. We're on Step in Time right now, where you've got like the, the tap dancing chimney sweeps on the rooftops. It very much looks like a stage production. And it looks like the new Mary Poppins film, Mary Poppins Returns, has gone with that same angle as well. A lot of the things from the trailer look like they could be like on a Broadway stage. They look a lot more effects heavy. I know it looks like there's some kind of like underwater or buried treasure segment, judging from the trailer of the film. But it's visual continuity. You know what I mean? This is what I talked about earlier, where I like the continuity between my films. Biggest recent example for me is the Hobbit trilogy compared to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Lord of the Rings was shot on film. It has a very much more sort of authentic, real look to it. There's some grit in the image, and it feels like you are watching this legend come to life. Whereas The Hobbit was shot on digital, it looks very clean. It looks very fakey fake in some parts, and I just wish that movies would use that continuity between them a little bit. Fire the missile! How much longer is this movie? We are on 1 hour 54 minutes coming up in a few seconds' time. So we've got about half hour left of this movie. I am very hungry at this point. I am already thinking about the Christmas supper that I'm going to have. I've got some chestnuts that I'm going to put in the oven. I'm going to have some of those. It is Christmas after all. I should probably get some substantial meals, though. I don't think I could have any more snacks today. I need some, like, you know, rice and chicken and tuna, like some like good hearty meal. Panda Bear, did you like The Hobbit? Oh boy, this could be a video in and of itself. Panda Bear, I will recommend checking out my Vimeo page. I'm not going to drop the link here in case my Vimeo channel gets shut down for like the 4th time. But I am on Vimeo. If you search up The Hobbit Fan Editor, I am on there. My videos are usually labeled The Hobbit Fan Edit hyphen and then the name of the episode. I've got a few videos on there. You'll see me as well. I've got some talking to camera videos. I am working on a fan edit of the Hobbit film. I've been working on it now for probably about 3 or 4 years. Since I first started editing, the edit has completely like changed and altered beyond all recognition since I originally started. And it is a project that is constantly developing. Tolkien's my favorite writer alongside Shakespeare, but in terms of like the written narrative, it's Tolkien. And The Hobbit has always been my favorite book. If I'm going traveling anywhere, you should see my copy of The Hobbit. I think it's I don't even know where it is now, actually. I think it's in a bag somewhere. But basically, my Hobbit copy is all beaten up. It's dog-eared. It's like ripped on the spine purely because I have read it so much. My entry into Tolkien, though, was the Lord of the Rings films. And then from there, that's when I went to the books. Lord of the Rings is, you know, my favorite film trilogy of all time, my favorite films of all time. In my opinion, those films have never been rivaled. Nothing's come anywhere close to the majesty and the scope and just the heart of those movies. They are absolute just majesties. They are epic in every sense of the word. I honestly can't think of a single fault I have with the Lord of the Rings films. And obviously, like, my love for those was extended even further with the behind the scenes footage and the appendices in those films. So going into The Hobbit, I thought that Peter Jackson could do no wrong, essentially. I remember hearing the news that it was going to be 2 films, and I was very, very depressed by that fact. I was like, that's going to look weird on my DVD shelf, having 2 Hobbit extended edition box sets next to 3 Lord of the Rings ones. But I thought, you know, it's going to be a shame only looking forward to 2 years of Hobbit films. Then the news came out that it was moved to 3 films. It was going to be a trilogy, and I was over the moon. I remember going, you know, we could make 5 films out of this if he wants. Like, just give me more Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth content done by Peter Jackson. He could do no wrong. So it was very naive on my part in that regard. I was looking forward to the movie. I went to see An Unexpected Journey on opening day, and I enjoyed it. Like, I did have a very, very good time with An Unexpected Journey, the first one in that trilogy. I think out of all the 3 films, I'm just reading what JX Editor's put. He has the most creative fan editor name. I didn't go into it with like I just thought, you know what? It is what it says on the tin. Boom, there you go, The Hobbit fan editor, which is kind of like screwed me over now if I do want to take on another fan edit after that, because do I then call myself a different name? Do I have to stick with The Hobbit fan editor? In all honesty, I think I'm just going to stick with the Middle-earth films, because there are plenty of other guys, yourself included, man, that are doing God's work and editing Star Wars and many, many other projects. So I'm going to leave it to my learned colleagues and probably just stick with Middle-earth. But no, I thought Unexpected Journey was, you know, the closest to Tolkien out of all of those films. It still did deviate in a lot of ways, but I thought it was a very solid film. It did have some beautiful moments in it, some that I rank, you know, highly, even maybe slightly under Lord of the Rings, but still up there, like the riddle sequence with Gollum. The eagles flying away with that Howard Shore music is absolutely stunning. And it was moments like that that was harkening back to Lord of the Rings for me. Desolation of Smaug came out the following year. and I saw actually that twice back to back opening night. I went with my mom, who's a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I went with my mom, and we saw that first in the evening. Then my friend also wanted to see it, my best mate, Salvatore, who I did my first ever Force Awakens review on. So I pretty much just like sat in the cinema and stayed for the next showing. So I did about 6 hours, 6 and a bit hours of Middle Earth that night. But after the first time, I really wasn't set with Desolation of Smaug. Something like really didn't connect with me. More problems with it started to arise. The pacing, the deviations of it, the focus on Legolas, stuff like that. The whole Molten Gold segment, I had a lot more problems with it. I still went to see the movie about 4 times at the cinema, though, so it must have done something right. And then it was kind of diminishing returns, where it ended on that cliffhanger. I was really disappointed that it didn't end with the burning of Lake Town. I was watching this movie. It was getting up to like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. I thought, we're dicking around with all this like Molten Gold stuff. Like, we still need to get to the burning of Lake Town. It is called the Desolation of Smaug after all. And when it ended on that cliffhanger, I just kind of went, oh, fuck you. Like, I remember at the time, a lot of people really did enjoy that cliffhanger. But to me, like, the elongated story, the padding it out, the completely unnecessary fact that it had to be a trilogy. If you edit it down to like a 2-movie split, it is a very solid 2-movie split. And I think the narrative works a lot better in that regard. By the time Battle of the Five Armies came out and the trailers came out, I was pretty just, along for it for obligation at that point. It never occurred to me, like, when I was watching it, like, wow, this is going to be probably the last ever Peter Jackson Middle-earth movie. I didn't have any sense of nostalgia. I didn't have any kind of, like, even when I went to see Revenge of the Sith when that first came out as a kid, like, I was in floods of tears at the end of that movie because, oh, what a naive time I lived in. I was like, this is the last Star Wars movie, like, it's a 6-episode story. Episode 3 brings everything to a close. It links into the original trilogy. This is it. That final shot of the binary sunset and the Force theme, I was in floods of tears because Star Wars was so powerful to me at that time and was a huge like mark for my childhood. It felt like I was saying goodbye to it. I wasn't going to get any new Star Wars movie. And then 2015 happened, before the dark times, before the Disney Empire. But with Battle of the Five Armies, I didn't have any kind of emotional resonance to it, really. There were some nice scenes in it, but the completely devastating over-reliance on CGI, not good CGI either. The fact that you watch Lord of the Rings and you've got these so many extras in armor and real weapons, and there's some tangibility to everything on screen. It feels real. The countless night shoots they did for Helm's Deep, even Pelennor Fields, which is more CGI based, still has, your horse cavalry in it. To see that horrible fakey fake, and the CGI has not aged well. It didn't look good at the time. It looks even worse now. It broke my heart, man. Like, all CGI orcs, and there's no visual continuity between the two. So I really disliked Battle of the Five Armies. As such, it is kind of a shame that is the Hobbit trilogy we're going to get. That is going to be the Peter Jackson trilogy. But hopefully, and it's not just me, there's a lot of other great people out there, Jake's editor included, that, we have been trying to edit the films and, either make them work better for the films that they are, or with the tact that I'm going, where I'm trying to get it as lore faithful to Tolkien's book as I physically can. We all go in with different agendas, and that's the beauty of fan editing. Like, no version of an edit's the same. So that's my very long edit. I'm hugely, immensely passionate about Tolkien in Middle-earth. So honestly, like, I could do like an entire series of videos on that stuff. But since you asked, I wanted to answer. Star Wars Episode 8, Heir to the Empire by Hobbit fan editor. Like, this isn't me discrediting like anyone's work on like the Star Wars fan edits or anything like that. And like, I'm leaving the prequels out here because the prequels, I've reached a level of acceptance with them. I grew up with them, so I am always going to have some attachment to them. And in all honesty, in my humble opinion, a lot of people might disagree with me here. After seeing the sequel trilogy, going back to the prequels is like rediscovering them for the first time. That, like, even the direction, a lot of it is just sitting on a couch. But in terms of the framing, in terms of the action, in terms of the conceptual design, and the fact that you can watch the original, the prequel trilogy and go, this has an identity of its own when compared to the originals. Whereas the sequel trilogy now, it's harkening back to the originals as much as possible. Even the story mechanic is pretty much exactly the same as the originals. The entire narrative, So I don't know whether I'd want to fan edit the new Star Wars films because, in my opinion, the foundations are shot already. They're fucked from the ground up. And you might make them more watchable films, but you're never going to make them truly inherently good. Whereas with The Hobbit, I think there is a good movie in there. It will still have problems, but it will be a good movie. And that's why I'm focusing my efforts on this one more so than anything else. I think... By the way, I didn't even mention this is one of my favorite scenes from Mary Poppins. His walk to work, Mr. Banks. I've just missed that entire thing, but there was there was no dialogue. It was all music. Great performance. Beautifully shot there as well. Static camera, long hallway with pillars on either side, very, very darkly lit, looks very menacing. Clearly, this is what all banks are like, right? Panda Bear writes, "What do you think about Del Toro? What would you think he would have done with the material?" I need to do more research into this, and I have researched behind the scenes. I've pretty much seen every single analysis, video, essay, review of The Hobbit that there is to see on YouTube as part of my research and my own sort of thoughts about the edit. What I can tell was he wanted to make it visually distinct from The Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you would have had the same cast returning. I think because very much like the Hobbit, the original Hobbit book was written as a self-contained thing, right? Like he did have some stories from the Silmarillion and a greater mythology in his mind, and that he was writing at the same time. But the Hobbit was always intended to be a bedtime story. Later, the Lord of the Rings came into it, and then he tried to retrofit the Hobbit into the grander mythology of the Silmarillion and the Lord of the Rings. But inherently, it was like a separate entity. And I think that's what Del Toro wanted to do. If you see the likes of Pan's Labyrinth or anything like that, or even some of his creature designs from Hellboy, I think he wanted to make it more akin to that. That, yes, it's still in the world of Middle-earth, but, some creatures would look different. He essentially wanted to do his own thing, which as a director, I understand. This is where I'm very torn on it, in that I'm grateful that Peter Jackson came back because you do have somewhat... Despite what I just said, you do have somewhat of a visual continuity. You do have actors coming back. You have Ian McKellen, Hugo Weaving, Kate Blanchett, Christopher Lee coming back for it and things like that. So I like that fact that you do have more of a continuity into the great mythology. But I really would have liked to have seen Del Toro's version. I do like to see versions of The Hobbit. I love the 1977, the 1978 animated film of The Hobbit, the Rankin Bass one. Love that film. That is probably the most accurate to the book version of The Hobbit that we've got. And with The Lord of the Rings is weird in that I'm very happy with those movies. And for the most part with a book, I go, go nuts, adapt it as many times as you want, because there's always a different way to tell that story. But The Lord of the Rings is so prolific that I really don't want another version. I can't imagine another visual representation of The Lord of the Rings even coming anywhere close to that. Even with this new Amazon series, for example. But The Hobbit's the exception to that, where I could go for a remake of The Hobbit. I really, really could. It's a shame what happened. I think Del Toro, there's different rumors of what he wanted to do with it. There was the two films split. And then I also heard rumors that the first movie was pretty much just going to go from the beginning of the journey to Smaug dying or something like that. And then movie number 2 was going to be a bridge film between linking the events of The Hobbit straight into The Lord of the Rings. Or I don't know if that was the 3-film split, whether they were going to do a 2-film split of The Hobbit, and then the third movie was going to be linking into Lord of the Rings. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but I would have loved to have seen Del Toro's version of that. I will say it's cool very much, and I was this is going back to Mary Poppins now. that Dick Van Dyke also plays the older version of like the banker. They were against it at the idea because they didn't think they could make the makeup work, but I think he wowed them in the screen test for that role. But this is quite a tried and tested story, isn't it? This is kind of like elements of A Christmas Carol, a guy who's very curmudgeonly and mean and money focused, becoming, having a change of heart and witnessing like the magic of family, or in case of the Christmas Carol, the magic of Christmas. This has been repeated with Christopher Robin. It's probably going to be repeated with Mary Poppins Returns. Father, they look the same age. JX writes, I've had an idea for a future Hobbit edit that is absolutely not the book. Make Smaug the ultimate villain. Thorin isn't in the Battle of the Five Armies because the Desolation of Smaug chase is happening. So you're talking about like the Battle of the Five Armies still happens, but you've got the Erebor chase also happening at the same time. Is that right? I'm not sure how that would work in terms of time of day, though, because if you are still going to keep the dragon being slain, that happens at night time, and the Battle of the Five Armies takes place at day. Or are you talking about getting rid of the Battle of the Five Armies completely and just ending it with the death of Smaug? It's got Dick Van Dyke just like having like a really wheezy laugh right now. Let's see how much time. I think we're wrapping up towards the end of this movie now. Yeah, we've got like 9 minutes left. So we'll be wrapping up very, very shortly. We're under 10 minutes. Panda Bear, Christmas question. What's your favorite scripts movie? Scripts, do you mean like script to a film, like screenplay? I'll just get confirmation on that question, then I'll answer it for you. Oh, this is where Mary Poppins is about to leave the kids now, I think, in a minute. Oh, what's your favorite Scrooge movie? Like Christmas Carol version. It was on earlier today for us in the UK, The Muppets Christmas Carol. It's a book that's been adapted countless times. To me, the one that has the most heart in it, it's The Muppets Christmas Carol. It's the most fun to watch. It has a great message. It has a fantastic soundtrack. Awesome, puppetry from Jim Henson. And it's Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge. A lot of people hate him in that role and think it's like an absolute embarrassment on his career. I think he knocks that role out of the park. There's a scene where it's my favorite scene in that movie. It's where the ghost of Christmas future takes him to his gravestone and he just breaks down. And anytime I see Michael Caine cry makes me cry. Okay. It's like, I don't like seeing Michael Caine cry. It breaks my heart every time. I hated The Dark Knight Rises, but all the scenes where Alfred was getting emotional in that film absolutely just ruined me. I love the earlier Muppets movies, by the way, as well. Like my favorite two. I've watched a few others, but like the best two, in my opinion, are Muppets Christmas Carol and Muppets Treasure Island with Tim Curry as Long John Silver. Who doesn't love Tim Curry? Like the guy's an absolute living legend. Jax writes, in terms of his his Hobbit fan edit that he's talking about, Smaug instead of Azog leads the Dark Army. Instead of you will lead my armies, the line would be send word to the dragon. I thought it was weird that Thrain says that Sauron and Smaug are in league, but nothing really happens with it. JX puts watched Muppets Christmas Carol last night and Michael Caine nailed it as always. Absolutely, man. He he kills that role so much. It's a funny story, actually. I'll go back to your Hobbit stuff in a minute, dude. But Muppets Christmas Carol. I was in sixth form at school, essentially my last 2 years, A levels, and it was towards no, actually, no, it was when I was doing my GCSEs. So I don't know what grade that would be. I think it would have been about 15, 16, something like that. And we'd just read Christmas Carol in school, and we were doing it. We had to do like an exam on it, like we had to bring that into our questions and stuff like that. And after we got that done, our teacher said, right, because it's Christmas, you can bring a film in. We're going to watch Christmas Carol. And all of the kids was like, we want Muppets Christmas Carol. Like, this is the version. We all grew up around the same time. We all grew up with that movie. This is the version we want to watch. And the teacher, that English teacher said like, oh, no, I'm not watching that version. I can't stand the Muppets. Now, let me just be clear. I don't trust anyone when they say they don't like the Muppets. I get maybe if you don't like, say, the modern version of the Muppets. But if you just like collectively across the board don't like the Muppets, not even one character from the Muppets, I instantly don't trust you as a human being. So we were all like shocked. And she said, you know, complete dictatorship. Every kid in that school group wanted Muppets Christmas Carol. She picked the Albert Finney version. It's a musical version, and it's very akin to Oliver. I think they stole a lot of stuff from Oliver in there. It was a fine movie, but it wasn't no Muppets Christmas Carol. So as soon as it finished, we were just watching this piece of shit movie. Well, it wasn't a piece of shit, but compared to Muppets, it was. And we overruled her essentially. After it finished, we was like, I know you said we can only watch one movie. We are actively demanding that you put on Muppets now because we want to watch that. That's the film that we wanted to watch. And she caved. Power to the people, peer pressure, and we got to watch it afterwards. Oh, JX has put social obligation, got to go. Thank you so much, man, for jumping on this. I will drop you a message after this. We'll exchange emails and we'll get something set up for, you know, a back and forth interview on the channel or something like that. It'd be good to hang out, man. Thank you so much. So back to the movie, I guess. I don't know if anyone else is still watching at this point. One viewer, Panda Bear, maybe you're still there. Oh, wait, what? He died laughing? Oh, well, that's a bit of a downer that, like, old guy died. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. I'm surprised it's taken me long to make that joke. Okay. Speaking of kites, I've never been kite flying in my entire life. I think I had one as a kid, and as I was about to like take it out and go and fly that kite, I think it ripped or something, or it broke, or it was a very, very cheap one. I will say in this movie, Julie Andrews looks absolutely stunning. Beautiful woman. Very classy. Classy kind of woman. I just feel like I want to put like the Superman theme over this. I can see the comparisons that people have with the flying Mary Poppins to the flying Princess Leia from The Last Jedi. Goodbye, Mary Poppins. Don't stay too long. Well, she's going to stay for like 50 years, and then she's going to come back with a new face as Emily Blunt. There we go, and credits are going up right now. I am so sorry to anyone that tuned into this video expecting like a full commentary of this movie of me talking nothing but Mary Poppins. This did kind of like turn into an unofficial Q&A video, which I'm cool with. It's great that everyone jumped on. You know, Panda Bear, SeaWorld Man, JX, Auburn, Elizabeth, everyone that jumped on today, I really appreciate it. As I said, going into it, as it's Christmas Day, people are all doing out doing what they do on Christmas Day. I wasn't expecting to have anyone on this thing, and I thought I was going to be very awkwardly talking to the camera. But this has been a lot of fun, and maybe I'll do this again sometime. Maybe I will do like a watch along and actually stick to talking about the movie, or as has been suggested, do a Q&A video like this. Panda Bears put, gotta go. Great talking to you, Chris. Made my Christmas. Thank you so much. That is the sweetest thing, Panda Bear. Thank you so much for jumping on. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you in a future video. Have a great Christmas. Have a great holiday season. So it's left to me now to round off, I guess. I'll just wait for the movie to properly finish here. There we go, the end, and we have 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom, end of the stream. Okay, so that was my in no way watch along to Mary Poppins 1964. So I'm probably going to get some like hater comments on this video telling me that I'm not talking about the movie. This was fun though. This is what it's all about. Like, I'm glad this Christmas that I could sort of, break the ice with you guys. Got very personal as well, talked about personal life stuff, talked about interests. It's all great. So maybe I will start doing a Q&A video like this, maybe not every week. I know it's good to touch base and everything, but I don't know how exciting my life is and how much I would have to update every single week. Maybe I could do it bi-weekly, or maybe I could do it monthly, but I definitely did have I had a blast doing this, so I would like to do another one. But I think everyone's signed off now. Final thank you to everyone that jumped on today. You guys are great, and it's great to have your continued viewership. We're coming towards the end of 2018, and there are still many movies that I need to see. At some point this week, I need to see Bumblebee and Mary Poppins Returns. I will be seeing that later this week, and hopefully jumping on a review with George now that he's back and actually has working internet. We'll have a slightly belated review for Wreck-It Ralph 2 as well. I don't know what else is out. I think the rest of 2018, I might do shorter reviews, like quick, like one word, not one word, or like one sentence reviews of movies that I need to catch up with in 2018 that sadly I've missed, that might make my best or worst lists. And then as we move into the new year, New Year's Eve, we're going to be doing our top 5 best and top 5 worst movies of 2018. And then, we're heading into 2019. And then before we know it, it's Oscar season. And we'll have our overnight Oscars live stream. So appreciate everyone jumping on today. If you are new, I think I've seen some familiar faces here. But if you are discovering me through this video, discovering this channel, please do hit that subscribe button. I promise that I usually do stay on topic more so than I did on this particular video. Hit the bell icon as well so you get a notification every single time we go live, whether it be for a brand new movie review or a trailer reaction from myself or any of our original content. It'll be great to stay in touch, especially if you are a movie fan. So once again, enjoy the rest of your Christmas, whatever time it is for you at this point. Have a great holiday season. And as I said, have a very safe one. And I'll see you on a future video. Thanks for watching, guys.